What do you do when you've spent your whole life building an empire, only to realize your family never truly saw you? Clara Walker had created her own architectural empire from scratch, despite her family's indifference. On her 35th birthday, after years of exclusion, she found herself left out of her mother's glamorous celebration. But she wasn't going to be a silent part of their world anymore. Clara took control, exposing the truth behind her family's charade and building something far more meaningful, a future where love wasn't bought, but earned. Stay tuned to see how Clara transforms her life and finds true happiness. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. Welcome to HDT Revenge Tales, where justice always finds its way. Good morning, Miss Walker. On the 45th floor of a sleek Chicago high-rise in the Clara Walker Architectural Design Office, the clock struck 6:00 a.m. Clara nodded briefly to the cleaning staff's greeting as she made her way to her desk by the window. Below, Michigan Avenue bloomed with vibrant tulips, bathed in the soft light of a sun that had yet to fully rise. Her office, a reflection of her success, displayed numerous architecture and natural design awards. The framed cover of Forbes magazine, where she had been featured, hung modestly on the wall. As the head of one of Chicago's most renowned architectural design firms, Clara had spent countless nights at this very desk, building her empire. Dressed in a simple navy pantsuit with minimal makeup, her eyes held a steely determination, an unshakable resolve that had defined her since she graduated at the top of her class from the University of Chicago School of Architecture. Starting her own firm at 30 had been no easy feat, but the $10 million in annual revenue she'd built was a testament to her grit. The ping of a new voicemail on her smartphone pulled her from her thoughts. "Jenny, we're off to Hawaii. We're celebrating Brittany's birthday." It was her mother, Vivian, one of the most successful real estate agents on Chicago's North Shore. Vivian lived an extravagant life in her 1920s historic mansion on Sheridan Road. On weekends, she hosted lavish brunch parties surrounded by high society friends who admired her wealth. Brittany's voice interrupted the message. "Mom, this hotel room is amazing!" Clara's younger sister Brittany was a lifestyle influencer with 1 million followers. Despite being nominally the head of an architectural design company, her lack of practical business acumen didn't stop her from securing projects through her flashy social media presence. Brittany's posts from the Ritz-Carlton regularly amassed over 100,000 likes, and her weekends were spent at yacht parties or luxury spas, leisureful moments that the media couldn't help but cover. Clara's phone buzzed again with a worried text she had sent earlier. "Is work okay?" Her stepfather, Richard, had immediately called in response. "Clara, can you handle all the family paperwork this week?" His voice was polished, but Clara could hear the indifference. Richard, an investment banker, had married her mother 10 years ago. He kept up a gentlemanly facade, but privately he looked down on Clara. His annual ritual of buying a new luxury car, his latest being a Bentley Continental GT, stood proudly in their garage. Richard was also the one family member who had never tried to hide his coldness toward Clara. "Yes, I understand." Clara spoke the words quietly, hanging up the phone without emotion. On her wrist, a Cartier watch, a keepsake from her late father, caught the light. She glanced out the window, her eyes briefly landing on her Wilmette townhouse in the distance. She had stayed up late last night, yet again, organizing her sister's company's financial statements. Despite Brittany's outward glamour, the company's management was in disarray. Clara's 35th birthday was fast approaching. For the past few years, there had been no birthday wishes from her family. No calls, no messages. She had long been absent from the family photos Vivian took in Palm Beach. When asked about vacation plans, Clara always found excuses about work. Though deep down she knew the truth, she was never included. At night, after returning home from the office, Clara opened an old family album. There, photos from before her father's passing showed a family of 4, arms around each other, smiling. Back then, her mother had loved her too. But after her father's funeral, something changed. While her mother's attention shifted entirely to her younger daughter, Clara had quietly faded into the background. A tear fell onto the high-quality Crane and Company stationery she'd been working on, but she didn't allow herself to dwell on it. She wiped the tear away and continued working, her emotions locked away beneath the surface. In her professional life, she commanded respect from clients and employees alike. But the one thing she longed for, the one thing she couldn't reach, was love from her family. On the 45th floor of Willis Tower, Clara finished her final presentation. From the 30-foot-high conference room windows, the Chicago skyline spread out in the spring twilight. The green of Millennium Park, where tulips bloomed in full glory, was bathed in orange sunset light. Miss Walker, thank you for the excellent proposal. We'll be providing you with a special bonus. The executive of a major developer extended his hand with a broad smile. This single project would increase annual revenue by 20%. The perfect birthday gift had arrived. Executives, one after another, offered their congratulations. Chicago's architectural giants praised her achievements. A once-in-20 years major redevelopment project being named as the chief director would surely mark a new turning point in her career. Returning to her office, she found a small bouquet from her staff on her desk. The combination of white calla lilies and blue delphiniums showed how well they knew her preferences. The card, reading "Happy Birthday, Clara," bore the signatures of all employees. She felt a warmth in her chest. Edward, the chief designer, quietly offered her coffee. "Boss, please leave early today. Enjoy celebrating with your family." Smiling at those words, Clara changed into a navy cocktail dress she had recently purchased from a luxury boutique. The fine designer fabric enhanced her dignified presence. She applied her makeup a bit more carefully than usual and fastened her father's Cartier watch around her wrist. This year might be different. Such hopes swelled slightly in her heart. Driving north on Lakeshore Drive in the twilight, she reminisced about memories with her family before her father passed away. They would always take this road to a downtown restaurant for her birthday. Now, even those memories weren't shared with her mother and sister. As she approached the affluent Winnetka neighborhood, several unfamiliar luxury cars were parked in front of her mother's house, 2 of the latest Rolls-Royce Ghosts, a Ferrari Portofino and her stepfather's brand-new Bentley Continental GT. The usually quiet street showed unusual activity tonight. Opening the front door, she could hear lively laughter coming from the living room, lit by baccarat crystal chandeliers. This 1920s historic building embodied her mother's good taste, exuding both classical and modern elegance. The sound of Dom Perignon Rosé champagne being uncorked, high-end French catering by a Michelin-starred chef. From her mother's reception room, she could see relatives dressed in evening gowns. "Everyone, thank you for viewing my new jewelry collection." Her mother, Vivian's, voice rang out with a crystal glass in hand. She wore a broad smile. A custom-made Cartier diamond necklace sparkled in the chandelier light. Beside her, notable society figures offered their congratulations. "Mom, the Instagram livestream is getting such a huge response! Over 500,000 views already!" Brittany was elated, holding the latest iPhone 15 Pro Max. Her dress was apparently a direct shipment from Dior in Paris. As a social media influencer, such glamorous scenes were her specialty. The moment Clara stepped into the living room, conversation briefly stopped. A frozen silence descended for just a moment. "Oh, Clara, you're early today." Her mother wore a slightly confused expression. Clear disgust showed in her eyes. "What's happening here?" To Clara's question, her sister answered lightly, her red Louboutin heels clicking as she gracefully approached. "It's Mom's new jewelry collection debut party." Today was the only day everyone's schedules aligned. Her stepfather, Richard, tilting his crystal glass, added, "Can you handle the party cleanup?" Her mother, wearing a radiant smile, added, "Oh yes, it was your birthday today, wasn't it?" Everyone laughed and raised their champagne glasses. The sound reflected off the crystal chandeliers, echoing endlessly. Not a single person offered birthday wishes to her. Clara quietly climbed the stairs, each step muffled by the thick Persian carpet beneath her feet. Entering her old room, she took a deep breath before reaching for Crane and Company's premium stationery. Her father's keepsake Mont Blanc fountain pen gleamed in the dim light as she grasped it, her fingers trembling slightly. She hesitated for a moment, but then the weight of everything pressed her forward. Fighting back the tears threatening to spill, she began writing. She poured out the truth. the truth about her sister's company mounting deficits, hidden behind the glossy filter of social media perfection, the truth about her mother's real estate dealings, the illegal transactions, and the tax evasion that ran deep in their veins, the truth about her stepfather's investment firm where client funds had been misappropriated for years, and the undeniable truth of how she had been silently supporting the whole facade, keeping their lives from unraveling, even at the cost of her own peace. The words flowed, a raw and aching confession, a record of the countless nights spent maintaining the family's carefully crafted image. When the letter was finished, Clara carefully folded it, placing it in an envelope with the utmost precision. She left it on the living room table, knowing it had the power to dismantle this entire house of lies with the smallest breath of truth. With minimal necessities packed in her Louis Vuitton travel bag, Clara made a reservation at a Michelin-starred restaurant on her phone. The concierge, Elena, responded with professional courtesy. "We have prepared the chef's table for one this evening." Downstairs, the party continued, the sounds of champagne corks popping, the high society laughter that echoed through the rooms, and her sister's voice, still broadcasting her life on Instagram Live. Clara opened the front door, the night breeze cool against her skin. In the luxury of her car, heading south on Michigan Avenue, classical music floated softly from the speakers. She let the calm notes wash over her as she drove, escaping from the glittering charade she had been a part of for so long. Arriving at the restaurant, Michael Moran, the service director, greeted her with a smile that exuded the kind of warmth only a 3-Michelin-starred restaurant could offer. "Let me show you to the chef's table." They ascended the spiral staircase to a private dining room, glass enclosed, offering a panoramic view of Chicago's shimmering night skyline. On the table, pure white linen was elegantly spread, and baccarat crystal glasses sparkled in the chandelier light. Michael's voice carried a warmth that made her feel at ease. "We understand you're dining alone this evening." "Yes, today is my birthday." His expression softened. "Then allow me to suggest a wine worthy of this special evening." The sommelier arrived with a bottle of 1988 Romanée Conti, a wine from Clara's birth year. The deep red liquid sparkled as it was poured, shimmering like a jewel under the light. "1988 was a wonderful year," the sommelier remarked. Clara smiled faintly at the words. Before her father passed, they had always come to this restaurant for her birthday. Back then, her mother remembered her preferences, always ordering chocolate soufflé for dessert. The appetizer arrived a delicate harmony of truffles and caviar. Each plate was a work of art, crafted with care and dedication. "This is a special celebratory dish from the chef," Michael said with pride. Course after course followed, each dish more beautiful than the last, each one a sincere reflection of the chef's heart and effort. But then, her phone vibrated. It was a notification from her sister's Instagram. Clara's finger moved before she could stop it, and the screen displayed a series of photos from the extravagant party downstairs. Her mother's elegant smile, her stepfather raising a glass of champagne, her sister laughing. Only Clara's face was missing from the shots. The comment section flooded with envious voices, praising the lavish event. The contrast between the smiling family on social media and the quiet, intimate dinner table before her felt like a knife to her heart. Yet, strangely, her heart remained calm. "A toast to your birthday," Michael said, pouring Dom Perignon Rosé into her glass. It was the same champagne served at her mother's party, but somehow, in this space, it felt different, more genuine. "Did you know they say champagne bubbles are a sign of happiness?" At those words, Clara's eyes unexpectedly moistened. Warmth from strangers' genuine affection was something she had never received from her own family. The main dish arrived, perfectly cooked A5 Wagyu beef, accompanied by organic vegetables. Clara savored each bite, her senses alive with the beauty of the meal. "Actually," Michael added with a smile, "all the kitchen staff prepared a birthday card for you." He handed her the card, which contained handwritten messages from each staff member, including the chef. The heartfelt wishes from people she had never met stirred something deep within her. Clara's tears, unbidden, fell onto the pristine tablecloth. She had come here to find solace, to escape the pain of her family's disregard, and in the simplest of gestures, a birthday card from strangers, she had found the comfort she had longed for her whole life. Her smartphone vibrated again, this time a notification from her mother's Instagram. Stories of the new jewelry collection debut party were being uploaded one after another. Clara quietly turned off her smartphone. Outside the window, Chicago's night skyline glowed blue. Willis Tower, John Hancock Center, and the new buildings she had helped design all stood quietly, as if watching over her 35 years of life. "I've brought your dessert. It was chocolate souffle." The taste of birthdays once shared with her father gently returned. A birthday song from all the restaurant staff. The moment she received heartfelt wishes from others for the first time, it became her warmest birthday memory yet. "Did you enjoy your special evening?" As she was leaving, Michael smiled kindly. "Yes, it was the best birthday of my life." Getting into her car, she quietly started the engine. At the Sheridan Road mansion, the party was reaching its end. "Brittany, can you call Clara?" Vivian said elegantly, letting her Cartier bracelet sparkle. The kitchen, lined with empty Dom Perignon bottles, was scattered with leftover high-end French catering. "Yes, I'll call her. She's probably working upstairs as usual." Brittany climbed the spiral stairs, her Dior heels clicking. Richard was engrossed in conversation about luxury cars with his investment associates. "Clara, could you help with the cleanup?" Brittany's voice trailed off. No one was in the upstairs hallway. What's wrong?" Vivian came up the stairs, the baccarat chandelier light reflected off her new necklace, creating patterns on the wall. "Jenny's not here." "Well, running away, that's not like her." Just then, their stepfather's voice rang out from the living room. "Vivian, Brittany, come here right now." His tone lacked its usual composure. When the two hurried downstairs, they saw the premium stationery placed on the living room table, letters carefully written with a Mont Blanc fountain pen on Crane and Company's finest paper. It was like a magic spell that would instantly destroy this family's castle of pretense. To Mother, Brittany, and Richard, Vivian's hands trembled. "Until now, I have kept silent to protect the family. However, tonight, while celebrating my 35th birthday alone, I made a decision." Brittany caught her breath. First, regarding Brittany's company, behind the glamorous social media posts, the company's reality is in serious management crisis. "As of today, I am terminating all the secret financial support and client introductions I have been providing." The iPhone fell from Brittany's hands. Her latest post on the screen now seemed a cruel irony. "Next, regarding Mother's real estate company, I have submitted all evidence of fraud and tax evasion in transactions over the past 3 years to the relevant authorities. All the fake transactions conducted under my name will also come to light." The color drained from Vivian's face. Her hands holding the letter began shaking violently. "And regarding Richard's investment company, evidence of client fund misappropriation has already been submitted to the SEC. The truth behind all the documents I've been signing as the nominal responsible party will also be revealed." Her stepfather dropped his whiskey glass. The baccarat crystal shattered on the marble floor. At that moment, Brittany's smartphone began vibrating violently. The screen displayed notifications of rapidly declining follower numbers. Someone had begun exposing the truth behind her posts. Her career as an influencer was crumbling before her eyes. With an audible crash, "My 100,000 followers!" Vivian's phone started ringing too. A call from Chicago's largest real estate brokerage, a cold voice announcing immediate contract termination flowed from the speaker in the study. Richard's private line was ringing. Inquiries from investors were flooding in. The keys to his Bentley slipped from his trembling hands. "This is my final gift to you." The last line of the letter sparkled in the baccarat chandelier light. That night, an unprecedented silence fell over the Sheridan Road mansion. The next morning's Chicago Tribune front page bore the headline, "Fraud Exposed, Shaking Chicago's High Society." Her mother's real estate company received cancellation after cancellation. Long-term clients were all requesting contract terminations at once. The luxury residential area office now bore a sign reading, "Temporarily closed." On her sister's Instagram, followers decreased by tens of thousands within hours. Luxury brands she had promoted announced collaboration contract terminations one after another. Her once glamorous social media account had become an object of ridicule. SEC investigators conducted an on-site inspection of her stepfather's investment company. The media gathered in front of the building, and wealthy clients arriving in luxury cars would likely never return. CNN Breaking News aired news of the glamorous family's downfall in Chicago's social circles spread across the nation in an instant. Her mother's cell phone was flooded with condemning voices from former friends. None of the social circle members who had gathered for weekend brunch parties would answer their phones now. Her sister's credit cards were suspended one after another. Her luxury stay reservation at the Ritz-Carlton was canceled. With her influencer income cut off, her bank account balance visibly dwindled. Her stepfather's investors began withdrawing their funds en masse. His luxury car collection was seized as evidence of illegal fund misappropriation and transported away from the garage one by one. As night fell, the three family members sat dazed in their crumbling castle of pretense. Under the baccarat chandelier, their shadows stretched long. Her mother, still dressed in her luxury brand suit, stared vacantly at her smartphone. Her sister had lost even the will to respond to the flood of criticizing comments on her last Instagram post. Her stepfather merely stared at the ceiling, an empty whiskey bottle before him. At that moment, the butler quietly entered the living room. "Madam, I deeply apologize, but I would like to resign as of today." The words of the butler, who had served this family for many years, broke the silence. Outside, the spring night wind blew through. Their once glamorous lifestyle crumbled silently like a castle built on sand. 1 year later, Ms. Walker, the Forbes interview team is waiting. Emily, her secretary, quietly knocked on the door. She was to be featured on this month's cover as Chicago's most influential woman architect. "How are the preparations for the new projects in Asia?" "Yes, we've received approval from the teams in Singapore, Tokyo, and Shanghai." Over the past year, her firm had achieved remarkable growth. Revenue was up 300% from the previous year. The number of employees had doubled, and the office had expanded to 2 floors. However, the kindness in her eyes remained unchanged. "Are the preparations ready for this weekend's foster care support event?" "Yes, everything is set. 30 children are expected to participate." On her desk sat a photo frame, a picture from the Christmas party at the Foster Care Support Center. Surrounded by smiling children, her expression showed a happiness she had never known before. Meanwhile, in a suburban Chicago apartment, Brittany worked in a small kitchen. Her social media followers had plummeted to a few thousand, and her income as an influencer had completely dried up. Now, she only worked weekends at a local organic cafe. Vivian sat wearily on the sofa, her once luxurious branded clothes now long gone, sold off to second-hand shops to make ends meet. She wore simple outfits bought from local outlets, a stark contrast to the high-end fashion she used to flaunt. Her real estate license had been revoked, and her old connections, those she once relied on, had been completely severed. Her stepfather, Richard, once a man of wealth and influence, was now forced into early retirement. His days were spent in the neighborhood park, playing chess with whoever would join him. His prized Bentley had been seized, and now he drove a used Toyota. Another letter from Jenny. The Crane and Company envelope lay on the living room table, another monthly living expense check that arrived without fail. Though it stung their pride, they couldn't even pay their rent without it. In Clara's office, designer Edward hesitated before speaking. "The Wall Street Journal is requesting an interview about reconciliation between mother and daughter." Clara shook her head slowly. Her desk drawer was full of apologetic letters from her mother, letters that began with, "To my beloved daughter." Yet, despite the words, Clara knew it would take time before they held any real meaning. As dusk fell, Clara walked along Michigan Avenue, the spring tulips blooming just as they had the year before. She had just finished a meeting for a new project on the top floor of the Willis Tower. "Clara!" The voice came from Mary, the director of the Foster Care Support Center. "The children are so excited for the Thanksgiving party." Volunteering at the facility had become Clara's new routine, and spending time with the children there had taught her what family truly meant. "Tomorrow is my 36th birthday," Clara said with a small smile. Mary's face lit up, a warmth spreading through her. "We've prepared a wonderful surprise, together with the children." The next day, the Foster Care Support Center hall was decorated with colorful handmade ornaments. "Happy birthday, Clara!" 30 children ran up to her, holding their own handmade cards. Their smiles, pure and untainted, were worth more than any luxury brand. "We all made the cake," one child exclaimed. "I did the flower decorations," said another. "I chose the candles." The words, so filled with warmth and love, were a gift she never expected. It was a kind of love that didn't ask for anything in return, something her former family could never understand. Her smartphone buzzed with incoming calls from her mother, but Clara chose to ignore them. She wanted to focus on the happiness that surrounded her. "Happy birthday!" A little girl timidly approached. "I'm so happy I met you, Clara." Tears welled up in Clara's eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. Outside, the spring breeze blew gently, a breath of fresh life sweeping through the city of Chicago. On the top floor of Willis Tower, new project blueprints fluttered in the wind. These were plans for a new foster care facility, a project she had decided to dedicate her architectural talents to. It was a new purpose, one that would shape the future of the children who had become her true family. The night sky, filled with countless stars, seemed to mirror her own transformation. The castle of pretense, the world she had once lived in, now seemed like a distant memory. And before her, a new life filled with real love stretched out, a life she never could have imagined, but one that she had built for herself. Yes, this was true happiness. Clara Walker smiled from the depths of her heart for the first time in years. It was proof of a happiness that money could never buy. In her desk drawer, her mother's apologetic letters still lay unopened. Perhaps someday she would reply. But for now, Clara wanted to cherish the love she had found, the life she had built with her new family, one filled with genuine, unconditional love. What do you do when you finally realize that the love and validation you've been searching for from your family was never meant to be? Do you keep sacrificing, or do you choose yourself and your own happiness? Clara's journey has been one of perseverance, professionalism, and sacrifice. For years, she's built her empire while quietly carrying the weight of her family's expectations. Despite being the head of a successful architectural design firm, her family never truly saw her. Her mother, Vivian, favored her younger sister, Brittany, who spent her time basking in the spotlight while Clara's contributions remained unnoticed. But the moment Clara chose to stop playing along with their facade, everything shifted. When Clara walked away from her mother's lavish birthday celebration and chose a peaceful, solitary dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant, she made a decision that would change her life. Surrounded by strangers who treated her with the respect and kindness her family never had, Clara realized something profound. True happiness isn't about the recognition or approval of those who don't appreciate you. It's about finding your own worth and living with authenticity. Clara's act of writing the truth about her family's fraudulent dealings wasn't just an act of defiance, it was an act of liberation. She dismantled the very foundation of the life they had carefully built on lies. But it wasn't until she found real love and connection with the children at the foster care center that Clara truly understood what family meant. So, what do you think? Was Clara right to walk away from a family that had never supported her? Or do you think she should have kept trying? Have you ever had to cut ties with someone you thought you couldn't live without? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.
The silence in my kitchen is deafening as I stare at the brown cardboard box sitting on the counter, my heart pounding against my chest. It's been 3 days since I mustered up the courage to open the package that arrived unexpectedly, and I still can't wrap my mind around its contents. Inside was a leather-bound diary and a small digital voice recorder, both belonging to my daughter Leela. But that's not what has my stomach in knots and my thoughts spiraling out of control. It's the note that accompanied them, written in Lila's unmistakable handwriting. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I'm sorry for leaving you like this, but I couldn't bear the pain any longer. The truth about my life and my marriage is within these pages and recordings. I hope they bring you the closure I couldn't find. Love always, Leela. Gone? What does she mean? Gone? My beautiful, vibrant daughter, who had her whole life ahead of her, couldn't possibly be. I shake my head, trying to dislodge the thought. No, there has to be some mistake. Lila would never. But even as I try to deny it, deep down, I know it's true. The sinking feeling in my gut tells me that my worst fear has come to pass. With trembling hands, I reach for the diary and flip it open to the first page. As I begin to read, Lila's voice fills my head, as if she's standing right beside me, whispering her secrets. I don't know how much longer I can keep up this facade. Derek, the man I thought I knew, the man I married, he's not who I thought he was. He's controlling, manipulative, and I fear he's involved in something sinister. I'm scared, Mom. I don't know what to do or who to turn to. My vision blurs with tears as I continue reading, each page revealing a new layer of my daughter's hidden torment. The man she loved, the man I welcomed into our family, is nothing but a monster in disguise. As I reach the final entry, dated just 2 weeks ago, my heart shatters into a million pieces. I can't take it anymore. The constant fear, the isolation, the pain. It's too much. I've tried to be strong, but I'm at my breaking point. I'm sorry, Mom. I love you, and I hope someday you can forgive me. A gut-wrenching sob escapes my throat as the reality of what I've just read sinks in. My daughter, my precious Lila, took her own life to escape the hell her husband put her through. Anger, white-hot and all-consuming, surges through my veins. Derek, that bastard, drove my daughter to this. He destroyed her, piece by piece, until she couldn't bear to live another day. I clench my fists, my nails digging into my palms as a newfound determination takes hold. I will not let my daughter's death be in vain. I will uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Derek will pay for what he's done. Wiping away my tears, I reach for the digital recorder and press play. Lila's voice, tinged with fear and desperation, fills the room. Derek, please, you're hurting me. Why are you doing this? I thought you loved me. The recording ends abruptly, and I'm left in silence once again. But in my mind, a plan begins to take shape. I will retrace Lila's steps, unravel the web of lies and deceit that Derek has spun, and bring him to justice. I owe it to my daughter, to the memory of the beautiful, loving soul she was. I will not rest until the truth is exposed and Derek faces the consequences of his actions. With a heavy heart but an unwavering resolve, I tuck the diary and recorder back into the box and close the lid. It's time to get to work. For Lila, for the justice she deserves. The sun is barely peeking through the curtains when I find myself hunched over my laptop, a steaming mug of coffee beside me. It's been days since I discovered Lila's diary and the truth about her marriage, and I haven't been able to sleep more than a few hours at a time. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face, hear her voice pleading for help. I've been combing through her social media accounts, her emails, anything that might give me a clue as to what really happened. It's not easy, but I'm determined to piece together the puzzle of her life. A notification pops up on my screen, and my heart nearly stops. It's a message from Emily, Lila's best friend's childhood. We haven't spoken in months. Not since the funeral. Marion, I know it's been a while, but I need to talk to you. It's about Lila. Can we meet? My fingers tremble as I type out a response, agreeing to meet her at a nearby cafe. I grab my coat and keys, my mind racing with questions. An hour later, I'm sitting across from Emily, her eyes red-rimmed and her hands clutching a cup of tea. She takes a deep breath before speaking. Marion, there's something you need to know about Derek. He was horrible to Lila at work. He was her supervisor, but he used his position to control her, to make her life miserable. I feel my stomach drop, my worst fears confirmed. What do you mean? What did he do? Emily's voice shakes as she recounts the stories Lila told her. The constant criticism, the belittling remarks, the threats to her career if she didn't comply with his demands. It's a nightmare come to life. She was so scared, Marion, she didn't know what to do. He had so much power over her, and she felt trapped. I tried to convince her to leave him, to report him to HR, but she was terrified of what he might do. Tears stream down my face as I listen, my heart breaking for my daughter. How could I not have seen it? How could I have let this happen? Emily reaches across the table and takes my hand. There's more. I think Derek was involved in something illegal at work. Lila overheard him talking on the phone one night, something about money laundering and offshore accounts. She was going to go to the authorities, but then she trails off, unable to finish the sentence. We both know how the story ends. I take a deep breath, my mind reeling with this new information. Derek wasn't just a monster at home, he was a criminal, and he drove my daughter to take her own life. I thank Emily for her courage in coming forward and promise to keep her updated on my investigation. As I leave the cafe, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. I will not rest until I have exposed Derek for the vile creature he is. My next stop is Lila's former workplace. I know it's a long shot, but I have to try. I approach the receptionist, my heart pounding in my chest. I'm here to see Derek Voss. It's urgent. The receptionist gives me a wary look but nods and picks up the phone. A few moments later, she hangs up and turns to me. I'm sorry, but Mr. Voss is not available. He's in a meeting. I lean in closer, my voice low and insistent. Please, it's about his wife. I'm her mother, and I need to speak with him. It can't wait. The receptionist hesitates for a moment before nodding and picking up the phone again. I wait, my palms sweating and my stomach in knots. Finally, she hangs up and turns to me. He'll see you now. His office is down the hall, last door on the right. I take a deep breath and make my way down the hall, my heart racing with every step. I have no idea what I'm going to say to him, but I know I have to confront him. For Lila, for the truth. I reach for the door handle, my hand shaking. This is it, the moment of truth. I take one last deep breath and turn the handle, stepping into the lion's den. Derek's office is sleek and modern, all glass and chrome. He sits behind a large mahogany desk, his face a mask of surprise and confusion as I enter. Marion, what are you doing here? He asks, rising from his chair. I don't bother with pleasantries. I know what you did to Lila. I know about the harassment, the threats, and I know about your illegal activities. His eyes widen for a moment before he regains his composure. I don't know what you're talking about. Lila and I had our problems, but I loved her. I would never hurt her. I slam my hands on the desk, leaning forward until I'm inches from his face. Don't lie to me, Derek. I have proof. Emails, recordings, witness statements. You made her life a living hell, and you drove her to take her own life. He steps back, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Marion, please, let's talk about this rationally. I know you're grieving, but you're not thinking clearly. I let out a humorless laugh. Oh, I'm thinking very clearly. For the first time in months, I see you for exactly what you are, a monster. He shakes his head, his expression one of pity. I'm sorry you feel that way, Marion, but I'm not the villain here. Lila had her own demons, her own struggles. I tried to help her, but she pushed me away. I feel my anger rising, hot and fierce. You're a liar and a coward, Derek. You preyed on her vulnerabilities, you manipulated her, and you destroyed her. And for what? Money? Power? Your own twisted satisfaction? He opens his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. I don't want to hear your excuses. I want justice for my daughter, and I will not rest until I see you behind bars. I turn to leave, but he calls out after me. Marion, wait, let's talk about this. We can work something out. I pause at the door, my hand on the handle. There's nothing to work out, Derek. You're going to pay for what you did to Lila, one way or another. I walk out of his office, my heart racing and my mind reeling. I know I'm in over my head, that Derek is a powerful man with connections and resources, but I also know that I can't do this alone. That's when I remember Jonah, Lila's old friend from law school. He was always the level-headed one, the voice of reason. If anyone can help me navigate this legal minefield, it's him. I pull out my phone and dial his number, my fingers shaking slightly. He answers on the second ring. Marion, hi, what's going on? I take a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. Jonah, I need your help. It's about Lila and Derek. There's a pause on the other end of the line. What about them? I close my eyes, fighting back the tears. Derek killed her, Jonah. Maybe not with his own hands, but he drove her to it. He harassed her, threatened her, made her life a living hell, and I have proof. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, Marion, I'm listening. Tell me everything. And so I do. I pour out the whole sordid story, from the diary to the recordings to my confrontation with Derek. By the time I'm finished, I'm emotionally drained, but more determined than ever. I need your help, Jonah. I can't do this alone. Derek is too powerful, too connected, but with your legal expertise and my evidence, we can bring him down. We can get justice for Lila. Jonah is silent for a long moment, and I hold my breath, waiting for his response. I'm in, Marion. Let's nail this bastard to the wall. I feel a rush of relief and gratitude. With Jonah on my side, I know we can do this. We can make Derek pay for what he did to my daughter. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you for believing in me, for fighting for Lila. Of course, Marion. She was my friend too, and no one deserves what happened to her. We'll make this right. I promise. I hang up the phone, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Derek may think he's untouchable, but he's about to learn the hard way that a mother's love knows no bounds. And when it comes to my daughter, I will move heaven and earth to get justice. The next few days are a blur of activity. Jonah and I meet up to go over the evidence I've gathered, poring over emails and listening to the recordings Lila left behind. It's painful, reliving her trauma, but I know it's necessary if we want to bring Derek to justice. We need more, Jonah says, rubbing his eyes. This is a good start, but it's not enough to take him down. We need concrete proof of his illegal activities at work. I nod, my mind racing. What about surveillance? If we can catch him in the act, that would be hard to deny. So Jonah considers this for a moment. It's risky, but it might be our best shot. I know a guy who can set us up with some discreet cameras and microphones. We'll have to be careful, though. If Derek catches on, it could all fall apart. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. I'm willing to take that risk, for Lila. And so we put our plan into motion. Jonah's contact comes through with the surveillance equipment, and we spend hours strategizing on how to plant it in Derek's office without getting caught. Finally, the day arrives. I walk into Derek's workplace, my heart pounding in my chest. I know I only have a small window of time to get in and out before he returns from his lunch meeting. I make my way to his office, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The door is locked, but I came prepared. With shaking hands, I pull out the lock-picking kit Jonah gave me and get to work. It takes longer than I anticipated, and I can feel the sweat beading on my forehead. But finally, I hear the click of the lock, and the door swings open. I move quickly, placing the cameras and microphones in strategic locations around the room. I'm just about to leave when I hear voices in the hallway. My heart stops. It's Derek, and he's heading this way. I look around frantically, trying to find a place to hide. There's a small supply closet in the corner, and I rush over to it, slipping inside just as the door to the office opens. I hold my breath, trying to slow my racing heart. I can hear Derek talking on the phone, his voice muffled through the closet door. I told you I'll have the money by the end of the week. No, I don't care how you get it. Just make it happen. There's a pause, and then he speaks again, his tone more menacing. Listen, I've got a lot riding on this deal. If it falls through, there will be consequences, and trust me, you don't want to know what those consequences are. I feel a chill run down my spine. This is it. This is the proof we need. I wait until I hear Derek leave before I emerge from the closet, my legs shaking. I quickly finish placing the last of the surveillance equipment and then slip out of the office, my heart still racing. I meet up with Jonah back at his place, and we quickly download the footage from the cameras. What we see is damning. Derek, meeting with shady characters, discussing large sums of money and offshore accounts. It's all there, in black and white. We got him, Jonah says, a grim smile on his face. This is enough to put him away for a long time. But as we're going through the footage, we stumble upon something else. A conversation between Derek and one of his associates, discussing his plans to flee the country. I've got a private jet lined up, Derek says. I'll be gone before anyone even knows what happened. My blood runs cold. If Derek gets away, all of this will have been for nothing. We'll never get justice for Lila. We have to move fast, I say, my voice shaking. We can't let him escape. Jonah nods, his expression serious. I'll make some calls, see if we can get the authorities involved. But Marion, you need to be prepared. Once we go down this road, there's no turning back. I take a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I'm ready. Let's take this bastard down. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of urgency. We need to act fast if we want to catch Derek before he disappears. I call up some of my late husband's old contacts in law enforcement, hoping they can help us track Derek's movements without tipping him off. To my relief, they agree to help. They promise to keep an eye on his bank accounts and travel plans, and to let us know if he makes any suspicious moves. With that taken care of, Jonah and I turn our attention to the upcoming industry conference. It's the perfect opportunity to expose Derek in front of his colleagues and the media. We spend the next few days preparing, gathering all the evidence we have, and putting together a solid case. It's exhausting work, but I feel a sense of purpose that I haven't felt in months. Finally, the day of the conference arrives. Jonah and I arrive early, scoping out the venue and setting up our equipment. We've arranged for a small press conference in one of the side rooms, where we plan to present our evidence to a select group of journalists. As the day goes on, I keep a close eye on Derek. He's schmoozing with his colleagues, acting like he doesn't have a care in the world. It makes my blood boil, knowing what he's done. Finally, it's time for our press conference. Jonah and I take the stage, our hearts pounding. I take a deep breath and begin to speak. Thank you all for coming. My name is Marian Fraser, and I'm here today to expose a criminal hiding in plain sight. I see Derek's face in the crowd, his expression one of confusion and anger. But I don't let it faze me. I press on, laying out the evidence we've gathered piece by piece. The emails, the recordings, the surveillance footage, it's all there, painting a damning picture of a man who thought he was above the law. As I speak, I see the journalists' faces change from skepticism to shock to outrage. They scribble furiously in their notebooks, their cameras flashing. And then, just as I'm about to wrap up, Derek stands up and starts shouting, "This is ridiculous. These accusations are completely baseless. I'm an honest businessman, and I won't stand for this slander." But even as he speaks, I can see the panic in his eyes. He knows we have him cornered. Jonah steps forward, his voice calm but firm. "Mr. Voss, we have evidence that you've been involved in financial fraud and workplace harassment. We also have reason to believe that you're planning to flee the country to avoid prosecution." Derek's face goes white. He looks around wildly, as if searching for an escape route. But it's too late. The doors to the room burst open, and a team of law enforcement officers rush in. They surround Derek, their guns drawn. "Derek Voss, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and harassment. You have the right to remain silent." As they read him his rights, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. It's over. We did it. The journalists are in a frenzy, shouting questions and snapping photos, but I tune them out, focusing on the sight of Derek being led away in handcuffs. Jonah puts a hand on my shoulder, squeezing gently. "You did it, Marian. You got justice for Lila." I nod, tears welling up in my eyes. I just wish she was here to see it. As we leave the conference room, I feel a sense of exhaustion and elation. It's been a long, hard road, but we finally made it to the end. I know there will be more battles ahead, more challenges to face. But for now, I allow myself a moment of triumph. For Lila, for myself, for all the victims who never got to see their abusers brought to justice. We may not be able to change the past, but we can fight for a better future. And that's exactly what I plan to do, one day at a time. The aftermath of Derek's arrest is a media circus. Reporters hound me for interviews, wanting to know every detail of the story. I do my best to keep a low profile, focusing on the legal proceedings and letting Jonah handle the press. But even as the court case moves forward, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story. I keep thinking back to Lila's diary, to the pain and fear she expressed in those pages. I know Derek is responsible for her death, but I need to hear it from his own lips. I need him to admit what he did. So when Jonah tells me that Derek is willing to meet with me, I jump at the chance. I know it's a risk, that he could try to manipulate me or twist the truth. But I have to take that chance for Lila's sake. The meeting takes place in a small, windowless room at the jail. Derek is brought in, his hands and feet shackled. He looks thinner than the last time I saw him, his face gaunt and his eyes hollow. He sits down across from me, his expression wary. "What do you want, Marian?" I take a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want the truth, Derek. I want you to admit what you did to Lila." He scoffs, shaking his head. "I already told you I didn't do anything. Lila was troubled. She had her own issues. I tried to help her, but she wouldn't let me." I feel my anger rising, hot and fierce. "Don't give me that bullshit, Derek. I know what you did. I have proof. You harassed her, you threatened her, you made her life a living hell." He leans back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "You don't know anything, Marian. You think you have it all figured out, but you don't. Lila was weak. She couldn't handle the pressure. That's not my fault. I slammed my hand down on the table, making him flinch. Shut up. Just shut up and listen to me. Lila was not weak. She was strong and brave, and she deserved so much better than you. You broke her, Derek. You broke her spirit and her heart, and you drove her to take her own life. I see a flicker of something in his eyes, a hint of remorse or guilt. But it's gone just as quickly, replaced by a cold, hard stare. You want the truth, Marion? Fine, I'll give you the truth. Yes, I was hard on Lila at work. Yes, I pushed her to be better, to work harder. But that's because I knew she had potential. I was trying to help her, to make her stronger. I shake my head in disbelief. You call that helping? You call that making her stronger? You destroyed her, Derek. You took everything that was good and bright about her, and you crushed it. He leans forward, his face inches from mine. You know what, Marion? Maybe you're right. Maybe I did push her too hard. Maybe I did contribute to her breakdown. But let me ask you this. Where were you when she needed help? Where were you when she was crying herself to sleep every night, when she was popping pills just to get through the day? You were too busy with your own life to notice what was happening right under your nose. I feel like I've been slapped. His words cut deep, hitting on the guilt and regret that I've been carrying around for months. But I won't let him see that. I won't give him the satisfaction. I stand up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is on you, Derek. Lila's death, the pain she went through, that's all on you. And now the world knows it too. You're going to pay for what you did, one way or another. I turn to leave, but his voice stops me. You think this is over, Marion? You think you've won? Think again. I have powerful friends, people who will make sure I never see the inside of a jail cell. And when I get out, I'm coming for you and everyone else who tried to bring me down. I don't turn around. I don't give him the chance to see the fear in my eyes. I just keep walking, my head held high. This isn't over, not by a long shot. But for now, I'll take the victory where I can get it. For Lila, for justice, for the chance to make things right. In the weeks following Derek's arrest, the case against him builds steadily. The evidence we gathered, along with testimony from his victims and colleagues, paints a damning picture of a man who abused his power and his position. I attend every court hearing, watching as Derek's lawyers try to spin the story in his favor. They claim that he's being unfairly targeted, that the charges against him are baseless and politically motivated. But the truth is undeniable. The emails, the recordings, the witness statements. They all point to a pattern of harassment and abuse that stretches back years. And then there's the financial fraud. As the investigators dig deeper into Derek's business dealings, they uncover a web of shell companies and offshore accounts, all designed to hide his ill-gotten gains. It's clear that Derek wasn't just a bully and a harasser. He was a criminal, through and through. The day of the verdict arrives, and I'm in the courtroom, my heart pounding in my chest. Jonah is beside me, his hand resting reassuringly on my arm. The judge reads out the charges, his voice solemn and grave. Embezzlement, fraud, harassment, and a host of other crimes, all adding up to a life sentence in prison. I watch as Derek's face pales, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief. He tries to stand up to protest, but the bailiffs force him back down into his seat. The judge bangs his gavel, and it's over. Derek is led away in handcuffs, his head bowed and his shoulders slumped. I feel a rush of emotion, relief, satisfaction, and a deep, aching sadness. Lila is gone, and nothing can bring her back. But at least now, her tormentor is facing justice. The media descends on the courthouse steps, clamoring for a statement. I take a deep breath and step forward, my voice shaking but clear. Today, justice was served. Derek Voss is a monster who preyed on the vulnerable and the defenseless. He destroyed lives and shattered families, all in the name of his own greed and ego. But now, he's been exposed for what he truly is. He'll spend the rest of his life behind bars, paying for his crimes. The reporters shout questions, but I ignore them. I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for Lila, and for all the other victims who never got to see their abusers brought to justice. As I walk away from the courthouse, I feel a sense of emptiness. The fight is over, but the pain lingers on. In the days and weeks that follow, I watch as Derek's life unravels. His assets are seized, his business empire crumbles, and his reputation is left in tatters. His professional licenses are revoked, and he's expelled from the industry organizations that once welcomed him with open arms. Even his so-called friends and allies abandon him, eager to distance themselves from the scandal and the shame. It's a fitting end for a man who thought he was untouchable, who believed that his wealth and his power would protect him from the consequences of his actions. But as I sit in my quiet house, surrounded by the memories of my daughter, I find little comfort in his downfall. Lila is still gone, and the hole she left in my heart will never be filled. The pain of losing her, of knowing that I failed to protect her when she needed me most, is a burden I will carry for the rest of my life. But I also know that I have to keep going, to find a way to honor her memory and to make sure that her story is never forgotten. So I pour myself into my work, into advocating for victims of abuse and harassment. I speak out against the culture of silence and complicity that allows monsters like Derek to thrive. And every day, I wake up and I keep fighting. For Lila, for myself, and for all the other daughters and mothers and sisters out there who are still waiting for justice. It's not easy, and there are days when the pain and the grief threaten to overwhelm me. But I know that I have to keep going, to keep pushing forward, because that's what Lila would have wanted. And that's the only way I know how to honor her memory. The months after Derek's conviction are a blur of activity. There are interviews to give, speeches to make, and a never-ending stream of people who want to hear Lila's story. It's exhausting, but it's also strangely cathartic. Every time I tell her story, I feel like I'm keeping her memory alive, like I'm giving voice to the pain and the suffering that she endured. But I know that I can't keep going like this forever. I need to find a way to channel my grief and my anger into something productive, something that will make a real difference in the world. That's when I decide to start the Lila Fraser Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting victims of workplace harassment and abuse. I pour all of my energy into getting the foundation off the ground, working long hours, and tapping into every resource and contact I have. It's not easy, but slowly, surely, things start to take shape. We launch a website and a hotline offering support and resources to anyone who needs them. We partner with law firms and advocacy groups working to change the laws and the culture that allow abuse to flourish in the workplace. And we tell stories of survivors, of heroes, of ordinary people who found the courage to stand up and speak out against their abusers. It's hard work, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Every time I hear from someone who says that the foundation has helped them, that they feel seen and heard and supported, I know that I'm doing something meaningful. But the real test comes when we organize our first big event, a community gathering to raise awareness about workplace harassment and to honor the memory of those who have been lost to it. I'm nervous as I step up to the podium, my hands shaking and my heart pounding in my chest. But as I look out at the crowd, at the faces of the survivors and the allies and the advocates, I feel a sense of strength and purpose washing over me. Thank you all for being here today. I begin, my voice trembling slightly. We are gathered here to honor the memory of my daughter, Layla, and all those who have suffered at the hands of workplace abusers. I take a deep breath, fighting back the tears that threaten to overwhelm me. Leela was a bright, beautiful young woman with her whole life ahead of her, but that life was cut short by a man who saw her as nothing more than an object to be used and discarded. I see heads nodding in the audience, faces etched with pain and understanding. But Lila's story is not unique. Every day, countless women and men are subjected to harassment, abuse, and discrimination in the workplace, and far too often their stories go untold and their suffering goes unacknowledged. I pause, letting my words sink in. But today, we say no more. Today, we stand together and we demand change. We demand a world where every person can go to work without fear of being harassed or abused, where every person is treated with dignity and respect. The crowd erupts in applause, and I feel a surge of energy coursing through me. The Lila Fraser Foundation is dedicated to making that world a reality. We will not rest until every workplace is safe and every person is free from abuse and harassment. I look out at the sea of faces, at the survivors and the allies and the advocates, and I feel a sense of hope and determination washing over me. Together, we can create a world where no one has to suffer in silence, where no one has to live in fear. Together, we can build a better future for all of us. As I step down from the podium, I'm surrounded by people who want to share their stories, who want to offer their support and their solidarity. And in that moment, I realize that this is what Lila's legacy will be. Not just the story of her tragedy, but the story of how we came together to create something beautiful out of the ashes of our grief. It's a long road ahead, and there will be challenges and setbacks along the way. But I know that with the support of this community, with the strength and the courage of the survivors and the allies and the advocates, we can do anything. And as I look up at the sky, at the stars twinkling in the distance, I feel Lila's presence all around me, guiding me forward, giving me the strength to keep going. "I love you, baby girl," I whisper, my heart full of grief and love and hope. And I promise I will never stop fighting for you. The shrill ring of my office phone pierces through the mundane hum of my workday. I pick up the receiver, expecting another client or colleague, but the voice on the other end sends a chill down my spine. It's Everett, my estranged husband, and his tone is anything but friendly. "Mallory, we need to talk," he says, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "I've made some investments that didn't quite pan out, and well, long story short, we've lost the house." I grip the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. "What do you mean? We've lost the house? How could you be so reckless with our home?" Everett scoffs, his true colors showing. "Oh, don't act so high and mighty. It's not like you've been contributing much lately. Maybe it's time for you to move back to that dingy little hometown of yours and live with your parents. God knows they could use the help at their age." Rage boils inside me. How dare he suggest I burden my elderly parents because of his mistakes? "Everett, you can't just make decisions like this without me. We need to talk, face to face." "Fine," he spits out. "Meet me at the house in an hour. Don't be late." The line goes dead, and I'm left standing there, the dial tone echoing in my ear. My mind races as I grab my purse and head out the door, barely remembering to lock up behind me. The drive to our once shared home is a blur, memories of happier times flashing before my eyes. When I pull into the driveway, Everett is already there, leaning against his car with a smug look on his face. Well, look who decided to show up," he sneers as I approach. "Cut the crap, Everett. What the hell happened? How could you gamble with our future like this?" He rolls his eyes. "Oh, spare me the lecture. You're hardly one to talk about responsibility. When was the last time you even visited your parents? They're probably wondering if you're still alive." His words cut deep, hitting a nerve I didn't even know was exposed. "Leave my parents out of this," I hiss. "This is about you and your reckless behavior." Everett steps closer, his eyes narrowing. "No, Mallory, this is about you. You and your inability to be a proper wife. Maybe if you'd been more supportive, I wouldn't have had to take such risks." I can't believe what I'm hearing. The audacity of this man to blame me for his own failures. "You know what, Everett? I'm done. I'm done with your lies, your manipulation, and your complete disregard for anyone but yourself. I'm going to find a way to fix this mess you've made, and I'm going to do it without you." I turn on my heel and storm back to my car, my heart pounding in my chest. As I peel out of the driveway, I catch a glimpse of Everett in the rearview mirror, his face contorted with rage. But I don't care. I have a new mission now, one that will take me back to my roots and force me to confront the ghosts of my past. I will protect my parents from Everett's twisted games, no matter what it takes. As I merge onto the highway, the city skyline fading in the distance, I feel a sense of determination wash over me. I may be heading back to my hometown, but I'm not the same scared little girl who left all those years ago. I'm a woman on a mission, and heaven help anyone who tries to stand in my way. The winding road leads me back to the place I once called home, a small town nestled in the heart of America. It's been years since I've set foot here, but as I drive past the familiar storefronts and houses, memories come flooding back. I pull up to my childhood home, a modest two-story house with a well-manicured lawn. My parents have always taken pride in their home, despite the hardships they've faced. I take a deep breath and step out of the car, steeling myself for the conversation to come. As I approach the front door, it swings open, revealing my mother's smiling face. "Mallory! What a wonderful surprise," she exclaims, pulling me into a warm hug. I return the embrace, feeling a pang of guilt for not visiting more often. "Hi, Mom. It's good to see you. Is Dad around? I need to talk to both of you." Her smile falters slightly, sensing the seriousness in my tone. "Of course, dear. He's in the living room. Come on in." I follow her inside, taking in the familiar surroundings. The house hasn't changed much over the years, still filled with the same cozy furniture and family photos. My father sits in his favorite armchair, looking up from his newspaper as I enter. "Mallory, what brings you home?" he asks, a hint of concern in his voice. I settle onto the couch, clasping my hands in my lap. "Mom, Dad, there's something I need to tell you. It's about Everett." I relay the story of Everett's reckless investment and the loss of our home. I watch as their faces shift from shock to anger, their eyes filling with a mix of disbelief and disappointment. "How could he do this to you?" my mother asks, her voice trembling. "After everything you've been through together?" "I don't know, Mom. But I do know that I can't let him get away with it. I have to protect what's left of our family, and that includes you and Dad." My father leans forward, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean, Mallory? We're not the ones in trouble here." "But you could be," I insist. "Everett is a master manipulator. He'll stop at nothing to get what he wants, even if it means coming after you. That's why I need to make sure this house is secure, legally under my name." My parents exchange a worried glance. "Mallory, we appreciate your concern, but we can take care of ourselves," my father says gently. I shake my head, remembering the malice in Everett's voice when he suggested I move back home. "No, Dad, you don't know him like I do. He's capable of things you can't even imagine. Please, let me do this for you. Let me keep you safe." Tears well up in my mother's eyes as she reaches for my hand. "Oh, Mallory, we never wanted you to have to shoulder this burden. We only ever wanted the best for you." "I know, Mom, and I'm going to make sure that Everett pays for what he's done. But first, I need to make sure you and Dad are protected. Will you trust me to do that?" They both nod, their faces etched with a mix of love and concern. "Of course, dear, we trust you," my mother says softly. As we sit there, holding hands and sharing memories of better times, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. I may have lost my home and my marriage, but I still have my family, and I'll be damned if I let Everett take that away from me too. The road ahead may be long and difficult, but I'm ready to face it head on. With my parents by my side and a fierce determination in my heart, I know I can weather any storm that comes my way. The family lawyer's office is a stark contrast to the cozy warmth of my parents' home. I sit across from the attorney, a middle-aged woman with a sharp gaze and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listens intently as I explain my situation, nodding occasionally and jotting down notes. "So, you want to secure your parents' house under your name, correct?" she asks, looking up from her legal pad. "Yes," I reply, my voice firm. "I need to make sure that Everett can't touch it, no matter what he tries." The lawyer leans back in her chair, studying me carefully. "It's not going to be easy, Mallory. Everett sounds like a man who doesn't play by the rules, but I'll do everything in my power to help you protect your family." Relief washes over me. Thank you. I know it won't be simple, but I'm ready to fight for what's right. She nods, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I can see that. Now let's talk about the legal proceedings. We'll need to gather evidence of Everett's financial misdeeds and build a strong case for why you should be the sole owner of your parents' house. We spend the next hour going over the details, discussing strategies and potential obstacles. By the time I leave the office, my head is spinning with legal jargon and a mountain of paperwork, but I feel a renewed sense of purpose. Back at my temporary apartment, I pour myself a glass of wine and settle onto the couch, surrounded by boxes of my belongings. It's a far cry from the lavish home I once shared with Everett, but it's a small price to pay for my freedom. As I sip my wine, my phone buzzes with an incoming call. I glance at the screen, expecting to see my mother's name, but instead it's Everett. I hesitate for a moment before answering, steeling myself for whatever lies he's about to spin. "What do you want, Everett?" I ask, my voice cold. "Mallory, darling, is that any way to greet your loving husband?" he purrs, his tone dripping with false sincerity. I scoff. You lost the right to call yourself that when you gambled away our future. What do you want? I just wanted to check in on you, see how you're doing in that little hometown of yours. I hope your parents are well. It would be a shame if anything were to happen to them. My blood runs cold at his thinly veiled threat. Listen to me, Everett. If you so much as breathe in the direction of my parents, I will make sure you regret it for the rest of your miserable life. He laughs, a low, menacing sound. Oh, Mallory, you always were a feisty one, but you forget who you're dealing with. I have more power than you can possibly imagine, and I'm not afraid to use it. I'm not afraid of you, I spit out, my hand clenching around the phone. I'm going to make sure you pay for what you've done, Everett. One way or another, you'll get what's coming to you. We'll see about that, he says, his voice turning icy. You have no idea what I'm capable of, Mallory, but you'll find out soon enough. With that, he hangs up, leaving me shaking with rage and fear. I down the rest of my wine in one gulp, trying to calm my racing heart. I know I'm in for the fight of my life, but I refuse to back down. Everett may think he has the upper hand, but he underestimates the power of a woman scorned. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family and make him pay for his betrayal, even if it means going to war with the man I once loved. The next few weeks are a blur of meetings, phone calls, and endless paperwork. I throw myself into my work, determined to build a new life for myself and secure my parents' future. My colleagues notice the change in me, the steely resolve that now underlies my every action. Mallory, are you sure you're okay? My friend and coworker, Sarah, asks me over lunch one day. You've been working nonstop lately. I give her a tight smile. I'm fine, Sarah. Just dealing with some personal issues, but I appreciate your concern. She nods, her eyes filled with understanding. If you ever need to talk, I'm here for you. You don't have to go through this alone. Her words touch me, and I feel a wave of gratitude wash over me. Thank you, Sarah. That means a lot. As I leave the office that evening, my phone buzzes with a text message. It's from Everett, asking to meet at a nearby cafe. I hesitate for a moment, weighing the risks, but ultimately decide to go. Better to face him on my own terms than wait for him to ambush me. When I arrive at the cafe, Everett is already there, sitting at a corner table with a smug smile on his face. I take a deep breath and approach him, my head held high. Mallory, so good of you to join me, he says, gesturing for me to sit down. I remain standing, my arms crossed. What do you want, Everett? I thought I made it clear that I don't want anything to do with you. His smile fades, replaced by a cold, calculating look. You may think you've won, Mallory, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. I have connections, resources that you can't even begin to imagine. I lean forward, my voice low and dangerous. And I have the truth on my side, Everett. I know about your financial misdeeds, your lies and manipulations, and I'm not afraid to use that knowledge against you. He scoffs. You think a few pieces of paper can stop me? I'll bury you in legal fees, drag this out for years until you have nothing left, and then when you're at your lowest, I'll take everything from you. Your parents' house, your job, your reputation. I'll make sure you have nothing left to fight for. I feel a chill run down my spine at his words, but I refuse to let him see my fear. You're wrong, Everett. I have plenty to fight for. My family, my self-respect, my freedom from your twisted games, and I won't stop until I've made sure you can never hurt anyone again. With that, I turn and walk away, my heart pounding in my chest. I can feel Everett's eyes boring into my back, but don't look back. I know I've just declared war, but I'm ready for battle. The next few days are a flurry of activity as I work with my lawyer to gather evidence against Everett. We pore over financial records, track down witnesses, and build a case that even he can't ignore. But Everett isn't one to back down easily. He sends threatening messages, tries to intimidate me at every turn. I refuse to let him get to me, but the constant stress takes its toll. One evening, as I'm working late at the office, I receive a call from my mother. Her voice is shaky and I can tell she's been crying. Mallory, it's your father. He's in the hospital. He had a heart attack. I feel my world tilt on its axis, my breath catching in my throat. I'm on my way, Mom. I'll be there as soon as I can. As I race to the hospital, my mind is a whirlwind of emotions. Anger at Everett for causing this stress, fear for my father's health, and a grim determination to see this fight through to the end. I won't let Everett win. Not now, not ever. The hospital room is quiet, save for the steady beep of the heart monitor. I sit by my father's bedside, holding his hand as he sleeps. The doctors say he's stable, but the stress of the past few weeks has taken a toll on his health. I feel a wave of guilt wash over me. I should have been there for him, should have protected him from Everett's machinations. But I was too caught up in my own battles to see the toll it was taking on my family. As I sit there, lost in thought, I hear a knock at the door. I look up to see my lawyer, a grim expression on her face. "Mallory, we need to talk," she says, her voice low and urgent. I follow her out into the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. "What is it? What's happened?" She takes a deep breath. "Everett is trying to file a countersuit. He's claiming that you're the one who mismanaged the finances, that you're the reason for the loss of your home." I feel my blood run cold. That's absurd. He's the one who gambled away our future, not me. She nods. "I know, Mallory, but he's got a team of lawyers behind him, and they're going to do everything they can to make this stick. We need to be prepared for a fight." I clench my fists, anger coursing through my veins. I'm ready. I won't let him get away with this. We spend the next few hours going over our strategy, gathering evidence to refute Everett's claims. By the time we're finished, I'm exhausted but determined. I head back to my father's room, only to find Everett standing by his bedside. He looks up as I enter, a smirk on his face. "Mallory, what a surprise. I was just checking in on dear old Dad. Such a shame about his heart attack." I feel my temper. "Get out, Everett. You have no right to be here." He chuckles, a low, menacing sound. "Oh, but I have every right. After all, I'm still legally your husband, and as your husband, I have a say in your family's affairs." I take a step forward, my voice shaking with rage. "Not for long, you don't. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure you never come near my family again." His eyes narrow. "You think it's going to be that easy? I'll drag this out for years, Mallory. I'll bleed you dry, and then I'll take everything you have left, including this hospital, if I have to." I feel a chill run down my spine at his words. "What are you talking about?" He smiles, a cold, calculating look in his eyes. "I have connections, Mallory, connections that go far beyond what you can imagine, and if I have to use them to get what I want, I will." I shake my head, disbelief and anger warring within me. "You're insane, Everett. You're not going to get away with this." He leans in close, his breath hot against my ear. "Watch me." With that, he turns and walks out of the room, leaving me shaking with fury and fear. I turn to my father, still sleeping peacefully, and I make a silent vow. I will protect my family, no matter what it takes. I will fight Everett with every ounce of strength I have, and I will make sure he pays for what he's done, even if it means risking everything I have left. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the battle ahead. It won't be easy, but I know I have the truth on my side, and with my lawyer by my side, I know I can win. Everett may think he has the upper hand, but he's about to learn just how far a daughter's love can go. I won't rest until my family is safe, and Everett is nothing more than a bad memory. The game is on, and I'm playing to win. The courtroom is packed as I take my seat next to my lawyer. The air is thick with tension, and I can feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me. Everett sits across the aisle, his face a mask of smug confidence. The judge enters, and the room falls silent. The proceedings begin, and I listen as my lawyer presents our case, laying out the evidence of Everett's financial misdeeds and manipulation. But Everett's lawyer is good. He twists the facts, painting me as a vindictive wife out for revenge. I feel my stomach churn as he spins his web of lies, making me out to be the villain. And then it's Everett's turn to take the stand. He plays the role of the innocent victim, his voice dripping with false sincerity as he recounts the story of our marriage. "I loved Mallory with all my heart," he says, his eyes welling up with tears. "But she changed. She became cold, distant. She stopped supporting me, stopped being the wife I needed her to be." I feel my blood boil at his words. How dare he paint himself as the victim after everything he's done? But my lawyer is ready. She cross-examines him, picking apart his story piece by piece. She presents the evidence of his gambling, his reckless investments, his lies, and deceit. And then she plays her trump card. a recording of a phone call between Everett and his broker discussing the illegal insider trading that led to the loss of our home. The courtroom erupts in gasps and murmurs. Everett's face turns white, and I see a flicker of fear in his eyes. The judge calls for order, and the room falls silent once again. And then, in a moment that will stay with me forever, the judge delivers his verdict. In light of the evidence presented, I find in favor of the plaintiff, Mallory Chambers, the divorce is granted, and the marital assets will be divided in accordance with the prenuptial agreement. I feel a rush of relief wash over me, followed by a sense of grim satisfaction. I've won. I've beaten Everett at his own game. But my victory is short-lived. As we leave the courthouse, Everett corners me in the hallway, his face twisted with rage. "You think you've won?" he hisses, his voice low and menacing. "You have no idea what I'm capable of, Mallory. I'll make you pay for this. I'll make sure you never know a moment's peace again." I feel a chill run down my spine at his words, but I refuse to let him see my fear. "You've lost, Everett. It's over. Just accept it and move on." He laughs, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, it's far from over, Mallory. You may have won this battle, but the war is just beginning." With that, he turns and storms away, leaving me shaken and unsettled. I know I should feel triumphant, but all I feel is a sense of dread. I head back to my parents' house, where my mother is waiting for me with open arms. She hugs me tight, and I feel the tears I've been holding back finally spill over. "It's okay, Mallory," she whispers, stroking my hair. "You did it. You stood up for yourself, for all of us. I'm so proud of you." I nod, burying my face in her shoulder. "I know, Mom, but I'm scared. Everett's not going to let this go. He's going to come after us again, I know it." She pulls back, looking me in the eye. "And we'll be ready for him. We're a family, Mallory. We stick together no matter what." I take a deep breath, drawing strength from her words. She's right. We're a family, and we'll face whatever comes next together. But even as I try to push away the fear, I can't shake the feeling that this is only the beginning. Everett may be down, but he's far from out, and I know he won't rest until he's had his revenge. A few weeks after the trial, I receive a message from Everett. It's short and cryptic, asking me to meet him at an address I don't recognize. My first instinct is to ignore it, but something tells me I need to see this through. I drive to the address, a luxurious apartment building in the heart of the city. The doorman lets me in, and I take the elevator up to the penthouse floor. When I knock on the door, Everett answers, a smile on his face. "Mallory, so glad you could make it," he says, ushering me inside. "I have something I want to show you." I follow him into the living room, where a stack of papers sits on the coffee table. He picks them up, handing them to me with a flourish. "I think you'll find these quite interesting," he says, his voice dripping with self-satisfaction. I look down at the papers, my heart sinking as I realize what they are. They're the deed to my parents' house, signed over to Everett. "What is this?" I ask, my voice shaking with anger. "What have you done?" He laughs, a cruel, mocking sound. "Oh, Mallory, did you really think I'd let you win that easily? I told you I have connections, and those connections were more than happy to help me convince your parents to sign over their house." I feel like I've been punched in the gut. "You bastard, how could you do this? How could you manipulate my parents like that?" He shrugs, a smirk on his face. "It was easy. They're old, vulnerable, they trusted me, and now their house belongs to me." I shake my head, disbelief and rage warring within me. "You won't get away with this, Everett. I'll fight you. I'll find a way to undo this." He steps closer, his face inches from mine. "You can try, Mallory, but you'll fail, just like you always do. You're weak, pathetic. You never had what it takes to play in the big leagues." I feel something snap inside me. Before I know what I'm doing, I'm swinging my fist, connecting with his jaw with a satisfying crack. He stumbles back, his eyes wide with shock, and then he's coming at me, his face twisted with rage. We grapple, trading blows and insults. I pour all my anger, all my pain into every punch, every kick. But Everett is stronger, and soon he has me pinned to the ground, his hands around my throat. "You stupid bitch," he snarls, his face red with exertion. "You think you can beat me? I own you, Mallory. I own your parents, your life, everything." I struggle against his grip, black spots dancing in my vision, and then, just as I think I'm about to pass out, I hear a voice. "Get off her, Everett. It's over." Everett looks up, his grip loosening, and there, standing in the doorway, is his brother Nathan. "Nathan?" Everett says, his voice confused. "What are you doing here?" Nathan steps into the room, his face grim. "I'm here to stop you, Everett. I know what you've done, how you've manipulated Mallory and her parents, and I'm not going to let you get away with it." Everett stands up, his face twisting into a sneer. "You don't know what you're talking about, Nathan. This is none of your business." But Nathan isn't backing down. "It is my business, Everett, because you've used my name, my reputation to get what you want, and I won't stand for it anymore." He turns to me, holding out a hand to help me up. "I'm sorry, Mallory. I should have seen what he was doing sooner. But I'm here now, and I'm going to make this right." I take his hand, pulling myself to my feet, and as I stand there, bruised and battered but still standing, I feel a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not alone in this fight after all. Nathan helps me to my feet, and together we face Everett. He's seething with rage, his fists clenched at his sides. "You're making a big mistake, Nathan," he growls. "You don't want to cross me." But Nathan stands firm. "No, Everett, you're the one who's made the mistake. You've lied, cheated, and stolen your way through life, and now it's time to face the consequences." He turns to me, his eyes soft. "Mallory, I know a lawyer who can help us. She's the best in the business, and she'll make sure that your parents' house is returned to them." I nod, feeling a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Nathan. I don't know how to repay you." He shakes his head. "You don't owe me anything, Mallory. I'm just doing what's right." We leave Everett standing there, his face twisted with anger and disbelief. And as we walk out of the apartment, I feel a sense of hope for the first time in months. The next few weeks are a blur of legal proceedings and paperwork. Nathan's lawyer is as good as he said, and she works tirelessly to build our case against Everett. And then, finally, the day arrives. We stand in the courtroom, facing the judge as she delivers her verdict. In light of the evidence presented, I find in favor of the plaintiffs, Mallory and Nathan Chambers. The deed to the property in question is hereby declared null and void, and ownership will revert back to the original owners, Eleanor and Walter Chambers. I feel tears of relief spring to my eyes. We did it. We won. But Everett isn't ready to give up. As we leave the courthouse, he corners us, his face contorted with rage. "You think this is over?" he snarls. "I'll make you pay for this, Mallory, you and your whole family." Nathan steps in front of me, shielding me from Everett's wrath. "Back off, Everett. It's over. You've lost." But Everett isn't listening. He lunges at Nathan, his fists flying. I scream, trying to pull them apart, but it's no use. And then suddenly, the police are there. They grab Everett, pulling him away from Nathan and slamming him against the wall. "Everett Chambers, you're under arrest for assault and battery, as well as fraud and embezzlement," one of the officers says, cuffing his hands behind his back. I watch as they lead him away, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. He's finally getting what he deserves. The next few days are a whirlwind of activity. My parents move back into their house, and I help them settle in. Nathan and I grow closer, bonding over our shared experience and our determination to move forward. And then one evening, as we sit on the porch of my parents' house, watching the sunset, Nathan turns to me. "Mallory, I know this might seem sudden, but I have to say it. I've fallen in love with you. Seeing your strength, your courage through all of this, it's made me realize how amazing you are." I feel my heart skip a beat. "Nathan, I don't know what to say." He takes my hand, his eyes full of warmth. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that I'm here for you, always." I lean in, pressing my lips to his. And as we sit there wrapped in each other's arms, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. We've been through hell, but we've come out the other side. And now, with my family safe and a new love by my side, I know that anything is possible. Everett may have tried to destroy us, but in the end, he only made us stronger. And that's a victory that no one can ever take away. The moment the words left Dad's mouth, a tidal wave of shock hit me. "Just so you know, I decided today's the day. I'm selling the house." He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather, not dropping a bombshell that would shatter our lives. I stared at him, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. Beside me, my sister Arden gasped, her eyes wide. "What? Why?" Dad shrugged, sipping his coffee. "It's time. This old place is too big for just the three of us. Besides, the money from the sale will fund our travel plans, Arden. Remember those dreams we talked about? Arden's face lit up, a grin spreading across her features. But I couldn't share her enthusiasm. All I could think about was how this decision would ruin everything I'd been working towards. "You can't do this," I said, my voice tight. "This is our home, Dad. It's been in the family for generations." He leveled a look at me. "Verity, I know change is hard, but it's my decision to make." Anger flared in my chest. Of course, Arden was on board with this harebrained scheme. She was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in Dad's eyes. Meanwhile, I was the one who'd been holding everything together since Mom died, managing the family businesses, making sure the bills got paid. And this was the thanks I got? I pushed back my chair, the legs screeching against the hardwood floor. "I have to go. I have a meeting." Dad frowned. "On a Saturday?" "Some of us have responsibilities," I snapped. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with them, couldn't bear to see the excitement on Arden's face. I grabbed my purse and stormed out, slamming the front door behind me. As I walked to my car, my mind raced. I'd been counting on my inheritance, on the security of knowing the estate would always be there. Now, with a few careless words, Dad had ripped that away. I climbed into my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I couldn't let this happen. I wouldn't. Dad had no idea how much I needed that money. The divorce had left me with nothing, and my ex, Calvin, was still bitter about the settlement. He'd do anything to hurt me, to hurt my family. As I pulled out of the driveway, a plan began to form in my mind. Dad wanted to sell the house? Fine. But I'd make sure the money ended up where it belonged, with me. I'd forge the documents, redirect the funds. He'd never even know what hit him. A grim smile tugged at my lips. Arden might be Dad's favorite, but I was the smart one, the resourceful one, and I'd do whatever it took to protect what was mine, even if it meant betraying the only family I had left. Over the next few weeks, the tension in the house was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every time Arden brought up the sale or her travel plans, I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. How could she be so selfish? Didn't she understand what this meant for me? I tried to reason with Dad, to make him see how unfair this was. "I've been the one holding everything together," I argued. "I deserve a say in what happens to the estate." But he just shook his head. "Verity, I've made up my mind. The house is going on the market, and that's final." I could feel my control slipping. One evening, I cornered Arden in the kitchen. "Why do you get to dictate our lives just because you're the baby of the family?" I hissed. She blinked at me, confusion written all over her face. "What are you talking about? This isn't about me, Verity. It's about what Dad wants." "What Dad wants," I mimicked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You mean what you want. You've always been his favorite, and now you're manipulating him into giving you everything." Arden's eyes narrowed. "That's not true, and you know it. Stop being so dramatic." I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "Dramatic? I'll show you dramatic." I stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do something, had to take back control. That's when I started putting my plan into action. It was almost too easy to forge Dad's signature on the financial documents, to set up a new account in my name, and start siphoning off funds. He was so trusting, so naive, he never even checked the statements. But Arden, with her suspicious nature, started noticing things. The way I could suddenly afford new clothes, expensive dinners out. She'd give me these sidelong glances, her brow furrowed like she was trying to piece together a puzzle. One day she confronted me. "Where are you getting all this money, Verity? You haven't worked in months." I shrugged, keeping my expression neutral. "I have my ways. Don't worry about it." She crossed her arms. "Is that why you've been so against selling the house? Because you're stealing from Dad?" I flinched. She was getting too close to the truth. "You don't know what you're talking about. I'm not stealing anything." Arden shook her head. "I don't believe you, and I'm going to find out what you're up to." Panic clawed at my throat. I couldn't let her ruin everything, not when I was so close. I had to find a way to stop her, to throw her off the scent. That's when I thought of Calvin, my dear, vengeful ex-husband. He hated my family almost as much as he hated me. If anyone could help me take Arden down, it was him. I picked up the phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed his number. "Calvin," I said when he answered, "I need your help. It's time to make my sister pay for everything she's done. I could practically hear his smirk through the line. I thought you'd never ask. What did you have in mind? As I outlined my scheme, I felt a thrill of anticipation. Arden thought she could outsmart me, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. I would make her regret ever crossing me. And when the dust settled, I'd be the one left standing with everything I'd ever wanted. The house, the money, the power. It was all within my grasp, and I'd burn down the whole world to get it. With Calvin on board, my plan kicked into high gear. We met up at a seedy bar on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where no one would recognize us. Over cheap whiskey, we hammered out the details. "You're sure you can pull this off?" Calvin asked, his eyes glinting with malice. "Forging documents is one thing, but embezzling from your own father? That's a whole new level of messed up." I tossed back my drink, relishing the burn in my throat. "I'm not just going to pull it off. I'm going to make it look like Arden's the one behind it all." Calvin let out a low whistle. "You really hate your sister, don't you?" I smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You have no idea." Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into the scheme. I spent hours hunched over my laptop, manipulating bank statements and transferring funds. It was almost too easy. Dad's accounts were linked to the estate, and with the impending sale, no one was paying close attention to the money coming in and going out. But as the numbers in my own account grew, so did Arden's suspicions. She started watching me like a hawk. Her eyes narrowed every time I stepped out for a meeting or came home with a new purchase. One evening, she cornered me in the living room. "I know what you're doing, Verity," she said, her voice low and accusing. "You're stealing from Dad, aren't you?" I scoffed, trying to play it off. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm just managing some investments for the estate. It's all above board." Arden wasn't buying it. "Then why are you being so secretive? Why won't you let me see the statements?" I felt a flare of anger. She had no right to question me, to stick her nose where it didn't belong. "Because it's none of your business, Arden. I'm the one who's been taking care of everything while you've been off chasing your silly little dreams." Her face flushed with indignation. "Those silly little dreams are what's going to give Dad a better life. But you don't care about that, do you? All you care about is yourself." I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a hiss. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? The golden child who can do no wrong. Well, guess what? I'm done living in your shadow. I'm taking what's mine, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." Arden's eyes widened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of fear. Good. Let her be afraid. Let her see what I was capable of. She backed away, her hands raised in surrender. "I don't know what's gotten into you, Verity, but this isn't over. I'm going to find out the truth, and when I do, you'll be sorry." I watched her go, my heart pounding with a mixture of triumph and terror. She was getting too close, but I couldn't stop now. I was in too deep. That night, I met up with Calvin again. "We need to speed things up," I told him. "Arden's onto us." He frowned. "What do you want to do?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I was about to say. "We need to set her up, make it look like she's the one who's been embezzling, plant evidence, frame her somehow." Calvin's eyes widened. "That's risky, Verity. If we get caught—" "We won't," I snapped. "I've come too far to let Arden ruin everything. We'll make it work." He sighed, but I could see the gleam of excitement in his eyes. He was just as twisted as I was, just as hungry for revenge. "All right," he said. "Let's do it. Let's take the little princess down." Dad's birthday was supposed to be a celebration, a chance for the family to come together and forget about the tension of the past few weeks. But as I watched Arden move around the room, her eyes constantly darting in my direction, I knew there would be no peace today. We were gathered in the living room, a small pile of presents on the coffee table. Dad was in his armchair, a smile on his face as he sipped his morning coffee. Arden perched on the edge of the couch, her body rigid with barely suppressed anger. I tried to act normal, forcing a smile as I handed Dad his gift. "Happy birthday, old man. This one's from me." He tore off the wrapping paper, revealing a sleek new watch. "Wow, Verity, this is too much. You shouldn't have." I shrugged. "Only the best for you, Dad." Arden made a small sound of disbelief, and I shot her a warning glare. She'd been snooping around my room earlier, and I'd caught her going through my desk. She was getting too close to the truth, and I needed to shut her down before she ruined everything. As Dad admired his new watch, Arden stood up abruptly. "Can I talk to you in private, Verity?" I hesitated, but there was no way to avoid it without looking suspicious. "Sure, let's go in the kitchen." She led the way, her steps quick and purposeful. As soon as we were out of earshot, she whirled on me. "I found the documents, Verity. The forged signatures, the fake accounts. You've been stealing from Dad, haven't you?" My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my face carefully blank. "I don't know what you're talking about, Arden. You're being paranoid." She laughed, the sound harsh and disbelieving. "Don't play dumb with me. I saw the transfers, the missing money. You think you've caught me in some kind of game, Verity? These are serious accusations." I stepped closer, my voice low and threatening. "You're right, they are serious accusations. Accusations that could ruin our family, tear us apart. Is that what you want?" Arden's eyes narrowed. "What I want is the truth. I want you to admit what you've done and face the consequences." I shook my head. "I haven't done anything wrong, Arden. And even if I had, do you really think Dad would believe you? He trusts me, relies on me. You're just the flighty little sister who's never had to worry about anything." Her face flushed with anger. "That's not true. I care about this family just as much as you do." "Then prove it," I hissed. "Keep your mouth shut and let me handle things. Don't go running to Dad with wild accusations." For a moment I thought she might argue, but then her shoulders slumped, and I saw the defeat in her eyes. "Fine, but this isn't over, Verity. I'm going to find a way to stop you." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good luck with that, sis. You'll need it." We rejoined Dad in the living room, putting on a show of normality. But inside, my mind was racing. Arden was getting too close, and I needed to act fast. As soon as the birthday festivities were over, I called Calvin. "We need to move up the timeline," I told him. "Arden found the documents, and she's threatening to go to Dad." He swore under his breath. "I told you this was risky, Verity. What do you want to do?" I closed my eyes, steeling myself for what I knew had to be done. "We have to frame her. Make it look like she's the one who's been stealing. It's the only way to save ourselves." Calvin was silent for a moment. Then, "All right, I'll handle it. Just be ready to play your part when the time comes." I hung up, my hands shaking. I was crossing a line, one I could never come back from, but it was the only way to protect what was mine, and I would do anything to keep it that way. The fallout from Arden's discovery was swift and brutal. Dad, always the peacemaker, tried to smooth things over, but it was clear that the cracks in our family were turning into chasms. In a last-ditch effort to uncover the truth, he hired a private investigator. I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth came out, before my carefully constructed web of lies unraveled. I was in my room, pacing back and forth like a caged animal, when I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to find Calvin standing there, a grim look on his face. "We have a problem," he said, pushing past me into the room. "The PI found the money trail. He knows about the embezzlement." I felt a rush of fear, but I pushed it down. "What about Arden? Did he find anything on her?" Calvin shook his head. "No, but that's not the worst part. He also found out about our connection. He knows we've been working together." I swore under my breath. This was bad. If Dad found out about my alliance with Calvin, he'd never forgive me. He'd always hated my ex-husband, thought he was a bad influence. "What are we going to do?" I asked, my voice shaking. Calvin's eyes glinted with a familiar ruthlessness. "We stick to the plan. We frame Arden, make it look like she's the mastermind behind it all. It's the only way to save ourselves." I hesitated. Framing Arden was one thing, but doing it with Calvin by my side, it felt wrong, like a betrayal of the worst kind. But then I thought about everything I stood to lose. The money, the power, the security. I couldn't let it all slip away, not after everything I'd done to get it. "Okay," I said finally. "We'll do it your way. But we have to be careful. If anyone finds out the truth..." Calvin grabbed my shoulders, his grip almost painful. "They won't. We're too smart for that. We'll make them all pay for underestimating us." There was a knock at the door, and we sprang apart. I smoothed my hair, trying to look calm as I opened it. It was Dad, his face grave. "Verity, we need to talk. The investigator found something." My heart hammered in my chest, but I forced a smile. "Of course, Dad. Let's go downstairs." As we walked into the living room, I saw Arden sitting on the couch, her face pale and drawn. The investigator stood by the window, a file folder in his hands. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to sound innocent. Dad sighed. "The investigator found evidence of embezzlement, Verity. Large sums of money transferred out of the estate accounts." I feigned shock. "What? That's impossible. Who would do something like that?" The investigator cleared his throat. "The transfers were made using your sister's login credentials. It appears that Arden has been stealing from the family." Arden leapt to her feet, her eyes blazing. "That's a lie! I would never do that!" Dad held up a hand. "The evidence is clear, Arden. I didn't want to believe it, but I can't ignore the facts." I watched as Arden crumbled, tears streaming down her face. A part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, seeing her brought low. But another part, buried deep, felt a pang of guilt. Dad turned to me, his eyes searching. "Did you know about this, Verity? Is that why you've been so resistant to selling the house?" I shook my head. "No, Dad. I had no idea. I'm just as shocked as you are." It was a lie, but it rolled off my tongue with ease. I'd gotten good at lying, at manipulating the truth to suit my needs. As Arden sobbed and Dad comforted her, I caught Calvin's eye across the room. He gave me a small nod, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. We'd done it. We'd won. But as I stood there, watching my family fall apart, I couldn't help but wonder at what cost. The revelation of Arden's supposed betrayal sent shockwaves through the family. Dad was beside himself, torn between anger and disbelief. Arden, for her part, couldn't stop crying, insisting over and over that she was innocent. As for me, I played the role of the shocked and devastated sister to perfection. Inside, though, I was a mess of conflicting emotions. Triumph, guilt, fear, they all swirled together in a sickening cocktail. A few days later, Dad called a family meeting. He said we needed to discuss the situation, to decide how to move forward. I knew it was just an excuse to confront Arden, to make her face the consequences of her actions. We gathered in the living room, the same room where we'd celebrated so many birthdays and holidays. But there was no joy in the air now, only a suffocating tension. Dad sat in his armchair, his face grave. Arden perched on the edge of the couch, her eyes red and puffy. I took a seat across from her, trying to look as neutral as possible. "How could you do this to your own father, your sister?" Dad asked, his voice thick with emotion. "How could you betray us like this?" Arden shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't, Dad. I swear to you, I didn't do anything wrong." Dad slammed his hand down on the arm of the chair, making us both jump. "Don't lie to me, Arden. The evidence is clear. You stole from me, from this family." I watched as Arden crumpled under the weight of his anger. She looked so small, so broken. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered everything she had, everything I'd never been given. The love, the attention, the adoration. She'd had it all, and she'd squandered it. She deserved this. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said, my voice trembling with fake emotion. "I should have seen the signs. I should have stopped her." Dad turned to me, his eyes softening. "It's not your fault. Verity. Arden made her choices. She has to face the consequences." Arden let out a choked sob. "Please, Dad, you have to believe me. I didn't do this. Someone is setting me up." I scoffed. "Who would want to set you up, Arden? Who would go to all that trouble?" She looked at me then, really looked at me. And in that moment, I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. She knew I was behind it all, but it was too late. Dad was already convinced of her guilt, already planning his next moves. "I'm sorry, Arden, but I can't let this go," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I'm going to have to involve the authorities. You need help, and you need to face the legal repercussions of your actions." Arden buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I watched her, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction. I'd won. I'd finally beaten her at her own game. But as I sat there, basking in my victory, I couldn't shake the nagging sense of unease. The way Arden had looked at me, the accusation in her eyes, she knew the truth, and she wouldn't rest until she'd exposed me. I'd have to be careful, have to cover my tracks even more carefully than before. I couldn't let her ruin everything, not when I was so close to getting what I wanted. As Dad comforted Arden, murmuring empty promises of support and forgiveness, I slipped out of the room. I had work to do, plans to make. The game wasn't over yet, and I was determined to come out on top, no matter what it took. The final nail in Arden's coffin came a week later, at a family dinner that will forever be etched in my memory. Dad had invited the private investigator to join us, saying he had new information to share. I was on edge, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. I'd been working with Calvin to cover our tracks, to make sure nothing could be traced back to us. But the paranoia was eating me alive, making me jump at every shadow. We sat around the dining room table, picking at our food in tense silence. Arden was barely holding it together, her face pale and drawn. Dad just looked tired, like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. Finally, the investigator cleared his throat. "I've uncovered new evidence in the case," he said, his voice grave. "It appears that Arden was not acting alone in her embezzlement scheme." My heart stopped. For a moment, I was sure he was talking about me, that somehow he'd discovered my involvement. But then he slid a folder across the table, and I saw the name on the cover. Calvin Mitchell. Dad's face went white. Calvin? Verity's ex-husband? What does he have to do with this? The investigator opened the folder, revealing a stack of documents. It appears that Calvin and Arden have been working together for months, siphoning money out of the estate accounts. We've found evidence of their communication, their plans to frame Verity for the theft. I sat there, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Calvin had betrayed me, had been working with Arden all along. Arden was crying now, big, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. "It's not true," she wailed. "I didn't do anything wrong. Calvin is lying." Dad shook his head, his face a mask of disappointment. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Arden. The evidence is overwhelming." He turned to the investigator. "What happens now? Will they face charges?" The investigator nodded. "I've already turned everything over to the authorities. They'll be issuing arrest warrants for both Arden and Calvin." I felt a rush of relief, followed quickly by a pang of guilt. I'd wanted to take Arden down, but not like this. Not with Calvin's betrayal. Dad turned to me, his eyes searching. "Did you know about this, Verity? Did you have any idea what they were planning?" I shook my head, the lie bitter on my tongue. "No, Dad. I had no idea. I'm just as shocked as you are." He sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "I just don't understand how it got this far, how I could have been so blind." I reached out, taking his hand in mine. "It's not your fault, Dad. They fooled us all." But even as I said the words, I knew they weren't true. I was the biggest fool of all, thinking I could trust Calvin, thinking I could outsmart everyone. As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a rising panic. What if Calvin turned on me, tried to implicate me in the scheme? What if Arden found a way to prove her innocence? I excused myself from the table, mumbling something about needing air. I stumbled outside, my breath coming in sharp gasps. I had to do something, had to find a way to protect myself. But as I stood there, staring out into the gathering darkness, I realized the truth. There was no way out. No escape from the tangled web I'd woven. I'd destroyed my family, my life, all in the pursuit of money and power. And now I would have to face the consequences, just like Arden and Calvin, just like the monster I'd become. I sank to my knees, a sob tearing from my throat. I'd won, but at what cost? What was left for me now, in the ruins of everything I'd once held dear? I didn't know. And for the first time in my life, I was truly, utterly lost. The aftermath of the dinner was a blur. Arden and Calvin were arrested, charged with fraud and embezzlement. The courts moved quickly, eager to make an example of them. I watched from the sidelines, numb to the chaos around me. I should have been happy, should have been celebrating my victory. But all I felt was a hollow ache in my chest, a sense of loss so profound it took my breath away. Dad was a wreck, barely able to function. He couldn't understand how his own daughter could have betrayed him so deeply. He turned to me for support, leaning on me in a way he never had before. I played the role of the dutiful daughter, the rock in the storm. But inside I was screaming, suffocating under the weight of my own guilt. The day of the trial arrived, and I forced myself to go, to sit in the courtroom and watch as Arden and Calvin's fate was decided. They both looked so small, so broken. Even Calvin, with his arrogant smirk, seemed diminished somehow. The evidence was damning, the case clear-cut. The jury deliberated for less than an hour before returning with their verdict. Guilty, on all counts. I watched as Arden crumpled, her sobs echoing through the courtroom. Calvin just sat there, staring straight ahead, his jaw clenched. The judge was merciless, handing down the maximum sentence for both of them. 20 years in prison, no chance of parole. As the bailiff led them away, Arden turned to look at me, her eyes blazing with hatred. "You did this," she hissed. "You set me up. I know it was you." I just stared at her, my face a mask of indifference, but inside I was reeling, her words hitting me like a physical blow. She knew. She had always known, and now she would spend the rest of her life paying for my sins. I left the courtroom in a daze, my mind spinning. I had won, but at what cost? My family was in shambles, my sister's life ruined, and for what? Money? Power? It all seemed so meaningless now. Dad found me outside, his face lined with grief. "I never thought I'd see the day," he said, his voice hoarse. "My own child, a criminal." I swallowed hard, trying to find the words. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I can't imagine how hard this must be for you." He looked at me, his eyes searching. "You're all I have left now, Verity. Promise me you'll never do anything like this. Promise me you'll be better than they were." I nodded, my throat tight. "I promise, Dad. I'll make you proud." But even as I said the words, I knew they were a lie. I was no better than Arden or Calvin. I was worse, because I had manipulated them all, had destroyed everything in my path. And now, I would have to live with that knowledge for the rest of my life. The months passed, and life went on. Dad and I tried to pick up the pieces, to rebuild what we could. But the wounds were deep, the scars permanent. I threw myself into my work, into managing the estate. I told myself it was for Dad, to make things easier for him. But the truth was, I needed the distraction, needed something to keep the guilt at bay. One evening, as we sat together in the living room, Dad turned to me, his face somber. "It's time we look forward, Arden. Let's make new memories, just us, truly free of the past." I nodded, trying to smile, but inside I knew the truth. I would never be free of the past, never be able to escape the choices I had made. I had won, but I had lost everything that mattered. And now I would have to live with that bitter truth every day for the rest of my life. It was the price of my ambition, the cost of my revenge, and it was a price I would pay, forever and always. The call comes just as I'm about to head out for my morning jog. Theo's voice on the other end of the line is calm, almost nonchalant, as if he's informing me about the weather. Lillian feels the empty nest at home. She's moving in next week. I nearly dropped my phone. "Excuse me, when was this decided?" "Last night. Mom's been struggling since Dad passed, and I think it's best if she's with family." "And you didn't think to discuss this with me first?" I can feel my blood pressure rising. "Marin, she's my mother. Where else is she supposed to go?" "That's not the point, Theo. We're supposed to be a team. You can't just make unilateral decisions like this. Look, it's just for a little while, until she gets back on her feet. It won't be that bad." But I know better. I've seen how Theo gets around his mother, how he transforms from the man I married into a docile little boy, eager to please. I take a deep breath, trying to quell the panic rising in my chest. "Fine, we'll talk about this when I get home." "Great. Love you." I don't respond, just end the call and stare at my phone. This isn't the first time Theo has made a major decision without me, but it's definitely the most egregious. I think back to our wedding day, how Lillian had insisted on controlling every detail, from the guest list to the color of the napkins. I had chalked it up to typical mother-of-the-groom behavior, but now I see it for what it was, a sign of things to come. I start my jog, my feet pounding against the pavement as my mind races. How am I supposed to deal with Lillian living under my roof? The woman who constantly criticizes my cooking, my decorating choices, my career. I think about the inheritance my grandmother left me, the money I had been saving for a down payment on a house of our own. With Lillian moving in, that dream feels further away than ever. By the time I get back home, I'm drenched in sweat and no closer to a solution. Theo is already at work, so I'm left to my own devices as I try to figure out how to accommodate our new house guest. I start by clearing out the guest room, boxing up the exercise equipment and craft supplies that have accumulated over the years. As I'm doing so, I come across a photo album from our wedding. I flip through the pages, my eyes landing on a picture of Theo and Lillian dancing together, identical smiles on their faces. It hits me then, the realization that I will always be an outsider in my own marriage, that Theo will always put his mother's needs before my own. I close the album and shove it back into the box, my jaw clenched tight. Something has to change. I can't keep living like this, constantly playing second fiddle to a woman who doesn't even like me. I finish clearing out the room and head to the kitchen to start on dinner. As I chop vegetables, my mind churns with the beginnings of a plan. I may not be able to stop Lillian from moving in, but I'll be damned if I let her take over my life. The memories of our wedding day flood back as I sit at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but even then, the cracks were starting to show. I remember Lillian's disapproving frown as she surveyed the reception hall, her eyes lingering on the simple centerpieces I had chosen. "Are you sure this is what you want, dear? It's a bit quaint." I had forced a smile, determined not to let her ruin my big day. "It's perfect, Lillian, just what Theo and I wanted." But even as I said the words, I could feel Theo's hand tighten on my arm, a silent warning to play nice. Looking back, I can see how Theo's charming facade had blinded me to his true nature. The way he would dismiss my opinions with a laugh and a pat on the head, as if I were a child. The way he would always defer to his mother's wishes, no matter how unreasonable. I take a sip of my coffee, the bitter taste matching my mood. I had thought marriage would be a partnership, but instead I find myself playing the role of a subordinate, constantly bowing to the whims of my husband and his mother. The sound of the front door opening jolts me out of my thoughts. Theo strides into the kitchen, his suit impeccably pressed and his hair perfectly coiffed. He looks every inch the successful investment broker, but I know the truth behind the polished exterior. "How was your day, honey?" he asks, his tone dripping with false sincerity. "Fine," I reply, my voice clipped. "Just trying to figure out where to put all of Lillian's things." Theo's smile falters for a moment before he recovers. "I'm sure we'll find a place for everything. Mom's not bringing that much." I bite back a scoff. I've seen the moving trucks parked outside Lillian's house, the endless stream of boxes and furniture being loaded up. And where exactly are we supposed to put it all, Theo? This house isn't big enough for 3 people and a lifetime's worth of possessions. Theo's eyes narrow, his voice taking on an edge. "We'll make it work, Marin. Mom needs us right now." "And what about what I need?" I ask, my voice rising. "What about our plans for the future, the house we were going to buy?" Theo slams his hand down on the counter, making me jump. "Damn it, Marin. Can't you think of anyone but yourself for once? My mother just lost her husband. She needs her family." I stare at him, stunned by the outburst. In all our years together, I've never seen Theo lose his temper like this. "I am thinking of our family, Theo, but right now it feels like you're only thinking of yours." Theo takes a deep breath, his jaw clenched tight. "I don't have time for this. I have to go pick up Mom." He grabs his keys off the counter and storms out of the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I sink back into my chair, my head in my hands. How did we get here? How did I let things get so out of control? But even as I ask myself the questions, I know the answer. I let Theo and Lillian steamroll over me, too afraid of rocking the boat to stand up for myself. Well, no more. I may not be able to stop Lillian from moving in, but I won't let her dictate my life. I won't let Theo treat me like a doormat any longer. I take a deep breath and stand up, my resolve hardening with each passing second. It's time to take back control of my life, one way or another. The next few days are a whirlwind of activity as I prepare for Lillian's arrival. I clean the house from top to bottom, rearrange furniture to make room for her belongings, and stock the fridge with all of her favorite foods. But no matter how much I do, it never seems to be enough. "This room is awfully small," Lillian sniffs as I show her the guest room, "and the decor is so bland." I bite my tongue, reminding myself that she's just lost her husband. "I thought we could go shopping for some new bedding and curtains, make it feel more like home." Lillian waves a dismissive hand. "I suppose that will have to do, for now." As the days go by, Lillian's presence in the house becomes increasingly suffocating. She criticizes everything from the way I load the dishwasher to the way I fold the towels. She rearranges my kitchen cabinets and moves my furniture without asking. But the final straw comes when I overhear her talking to Theo one evening. "Really, Theodore, I don't know how you stand it," she says, her voice dripping with disdain. "Living in this tiny house with a wife who can't even keep it properly decorated." I feel my blood boil as Theo's response floats down the hallway. I know, Mom, but what can I do? Marin is stubborn. You need to put your foot down, Lillian insists. Take control of the situation. You're the man of the house, after all. I can't listen to any more. I storm into the living room, my eyes blazing with anger. How dare you? I hiss at Lillian. This is my home, and you have no right to come in here and start making demands. Lillian looks at me with a smirk. Oh, please, this isn't a home. It's a shoebox, and you, my dear, are hardly qualified to be running it. I turn to Theo, expecting him to defend me, but he just stands there, his eyes fixed on the floor. Theo? I prompt, my voice shaking. Are you going to let her talk to me like that? Theo finally looks up, his expression unreadable. Marin, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I stare at him in disbelief. Harder than it needs to be? Your mother just insulted me in my own home, and you're taking her side? I'm not taking anyone's side, Theo argues. I just think we all need to calm down and find a way to make this work. I shake my head, hot tears stinging my eyes. I can't believe this. I can't believe you. I turn and flee the room, slamming the bedroom door behind me. I sink down onto the bed, my body shaking with sobs. How did I let things get this bad? How did I let Theo and Lillian walk all over me for so long? But even as I wallow in self-pity, a small voice in the back of my mind whispers that it's not too late, that I can still take back control of my life. I think of the inheritance my grandmother left me, the money I had been saving for our future. I think of how Theo had promised we would use it to buy a house of our own, start a family. But now, with Lillian living under our roof and Theo catering to her every whim, that future seems further away than ever. I wipe my eyes and take a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I won't let them take that away from me. I won't let them dictate how I live my life. I reach for my phone and dial a number I never thought I would need. Hello, I say when the receptionist answers. I need to speak with a lawyer. It's about my husband. The meeting with the lawyer is eye-opening, to say the least. I sit in his office, my hands clasped tightly in my lap as he looks over the documents I've brought with me. It seems your husband has been less than forthcoming about his financial situation, the lawyer says, his brow furrowed. Based on these bank statements, his investments are not nearly as lucrative as he's led you to believe. I feel a sinking sensation in the pit of my stomach. What do you mean? The lawyer sighs, leaning back in his chair. Mrs. Bridges, I believe your husband has been using your inheritance to fund his mother's lifestyle. The money he claims to be investing is actually being funneled into her accounts. I stare at him in shock, my mouth hanging open. That can't be true. Theo wouldn't do that to me. The lawyer gives me a sympathetic look. I'm afraid the evidence suggests otherwise. Your husband has been systematically draining your joint accounts for months. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. All this time, I thought Theo and I were working towards a common goal, a future together. But now I see that he's been lying to me, using me for my money. I think back to all the times he's dismissed my concerns about our finances, telling me not to worry, that he had everything under control. How could I have been so blind? I leave the lawyer's office in a daze, my mind reeling with the implications of what I've learned. When I get home, I find Theo and Lillian in the living room, sipping tea and chatting like old friends. Marin, there you are, Theo says, his voice all false cheer. I was just telling Mom about our plans for the weekend. I feel a surge of anger course through me. What plans, Theo? The ones where you take more of my money to fund your mother's shopping sprees? Theo's face goes white, his eyes widening in shock. What are you talking about? I throw the bank statements down on the coffee table. I'm talking about how you've been lying to me, stealing from me, using my inheritance to pay for your mother's extravagant lifestyle. Lillian scoffs, rolling her eyes. Don't be so dramatic, Marin. Theo is just being a good son, taking care of his family. I whirl on her, my eyes blazing. Taking care of his family? By stealing from his wife? By betraying my trust? Theo stands up, his hands held out in a placating gesture. Marin, please let me explain. But I'm done listening to his excuses. Explain what, Theo? How you've been using me all these years? How you never really loved me at all? Theo's face hardens, his voice growing cold. Don't be ridiculous. Of course I love you. But Lillian is my mother. I have to take care of her. I shake my head, tears streaming down my face. No, Theo, you have to take care of your wife. You have to be honest with me, respect me, but you've done none of those things. I turn to leave, but Theo grabs my arm. Marin, wait, we can work this out. I yank my arm away, my voice trembling with rage. No, we can't. Not anymore. I won't be your doormat any longer. I won't let you and your mother control my life. I storm out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I know what I have to do now. I have to take back control of my life, my future. And I know just where to start. The next morning, I'm back in the lawyer's office, a plan forming in my mind. I've spent the night tossing and turning, my anger and hurt fueling my determination to make Theo and Lillian pay for what they've done. I want to file for divorce, I tell the lawyer, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. And I want to make sure Theo can't touch a penny of my inheritance. The lawyer nods, his expression serious. Based on what you've told me, we have grounds for a strong case. Theo's financial infidelity is a clear violation of your prenuptial agreement. I feel a flicker of hope at his words. When Theo and I got married, I insisted on a prenup to protect my inheritance. At the time, he had laughed it off, telling me we would never need it. Now, I'm grateful for my foresight. What about Lillian? I ask, my jaw clenching at the thought of my mother-in-law. Can we prove she was involved in the fraud? The lawyer hesitates for a moment before answering. It may be more difficult to implicate her directly, but we can certainly make a case for her being a beneficiary of Theo's actions. If we can show that she knew about the misappropriation of funds and did nothing to stop it, we may be able to hold her accountable as well. I nod, my mind racing with possibilities. I want to make sure she doesn't get a dime of my money. She's been living off of me for too long. We'll do everything we can to ensure that doesn't happen, the lawyer assures me. In the meantime, I recommend you start gathering any evidence you can find of Theo's financial misdeeds. Bank statements, receipts, anything that shows a pattern of misconduct. I leave the office with a newfound sense of purpose, my steps lighter than they've been in months. When I get home, I find Theo in the kitchen, his face drawn and haggard. Where have you been? He asks, his voice tight with accusation. I've been calling you all morning. I shrug, my expression cool and composed. I had some errands to run, not that it's any of your business. Theo's eyes narrow, his mouth twisting into a sneer. Everything you do is my business, Marin. You're my wife. I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. Your wife? Is that what you call someone you lie to and steal from? Theo takes a step towards me, his fists clenched at his sides. I did what I had to do to take care of my family. My mother needed help, and I provided it. With my money, I spit back. Without my knowledge or consent. That's not taking care of your family, Theo. That's betrayal. Theo's face reddens, his voice rising to a shout. You're one to talk about betrayal. Running off to see a lawyer behind my back, plotting against me. Plotting against you? I echo, my own voice rising to match his. You're the one who's been plotting, Theo. Plotting to use me, to drain me dry. Well, guess what? The jig is up. I know everything, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Theo takes a step back, his expression wary. What are you saying, Marin? I take a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. I'm saying I want a divorce, Theo. I want you and your mother out of my life for good. Theo stares at me, his mouth hanging open in shock. You can't be serious. I meet his gaze, my eyes hard and unyielding. Oh, I'm serious, Theo. Dead serious, and I'm just getting started. The next few weeks are a blur of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. Theo tries to contest the divorce, but the evidence against him is overwhelming. The bank statements, the receipts, the email trails, all of it paints a clear picture of his deceit and betrayal. Lillian, of course, takes Theo's side, painting me as a vindictive shrew out to destroy her precious son. She even has the audacity to show up at my office, demanding to speak with me. How dare you do this to my boy? She hisses, her eyes narrowed in fury. After everything he's done for you, this is how you repay him? I stare at her in disbelief, my anger rising to a boil. Everything he's done for me? You mean like stealing my money and lying to my face? Like using me as his own personal ATM? Lillian scoffs, waving a dismissive hand. Oh, please. Theo was just taking care of his family like a good son should. If you were any kind of wife, you would understand that. I take a deep breath, trying to calm the rage swirling inside me. Lillian, I am a good wife, but I'm not a doormat. I won't stand by and let you and Theo walk all over me anymore. Lillian's face twists into an ugly sneer. You think you're so high and mighty, don't you? With your fancy job and your big inheritance. Well, let me tell you something, Missy. You're nothing without Theo. Nothing. I feel a cold smile spread across my face. That's where you're wrong, Lillian. I'm everything without Theo, and I'm going to make sure the whole world knows it. Lillian's eyes widen in surprise, but before she can respond, I turn on my heel and walk away, my head held high. That evening, I sit down with the lawyer and make a plan. I've spent years keeping quiet about Theo's misdeeds, protecting his reputation for the sake of our marriage, but now I have no reason to hold back. I want to expose him, I tell the lawyer, my voice trembling with emotion. I want everyone to know what kind of man he really is. The lawyer nods, his expression grim. We can leak the evidence to the press, to his colleagues, to anyone who will listen. But Marin, I have to warn you, this could get ugly. Theo and Lillian won't go down without a fight. I take a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I know, but I'm ready for a fight. I'm done being a victim. The next day, the story breaks in the news. Investment broker accused of fraud. The headlines scream. Wife exposes years of financial abuse. The response is immediate and explosive. Theo's colleagues desert him in droves, his clients pulling their accounts and demanding answers. Even his own firm throws him under the bus, issuing a statement condemning his actions and distancing themselves from the scandal. Lillian, of course, is beside herself with rage. She shows up at my door, her face twisted in fury. You vindictive bitch, she screams, her voice shrill and hysterical. How could you do this to us? To your own family? I stare at her, my expression cold and unyielding. You stopped being my family the moment you betrayed me, Lillian, the moment you put your own selfish desires above my well-being. Lillian's face crumples, tears streaming down her cheeks. Please, Marin, don't do this. We can work it out. We can find a way to fix this. I shake my head, my voice steady and calm. There is no fixing this, Lillian. You and Theo made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I close the door in her face, my heart racing with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time in years I feel free. Free from Theo's lies, free from Lillian's manipulations, free to finally live my life on my own terms. The fallout from the scandal is swift and merciless. Theo loses his job, his clients, his reputation. Overnight, he goes from a successful investment broker to a pariah, shunned by everyone who once admired him. Lillian, too, feels the sting of public disgrace. Her social circle turns their backs on her, canceling invitations and whispering behind her back. She becomes a ghost in her own community, a cautionary tale of what happens when you cross the wrong person. I watch it all unfold with a grim sense of satisfaction. After years of being under Theo and Lillian's thumb, it feels good to finally be the one in control. But even as I savor my victory, I know that my work is not yet done. I arrange a meeting with Lillian, determined to have one final confrontation. She arrives at the coffee shop looking haggard and worn, her once perfect hair and makeup now disheveled and unkempt. What do you want, Marin? She asks, her voice flat and defeated. Haven't you done enough already? I lean back in my chair, my expression calm and composed. I just wanted to make sure you understand the full extent of what you and Theo have done, the lives you've ruined, the trust you've betrayed. Lillian's eyes flash with anger. You act like you're so innocent in all of this, like you didn't benefit from Theo's success just as much as we did. I nod, acknowledging the truth in her words. You're right, Lillian. I did benefit from Theo's success, but I never knew the true cost of that success. The lies, the deceit, the betrayal. Lillian looks away, her jaw clenching tight. We did what we had to do to survive, to maintain our lifestyle. I lean forward, my voice low, intense. But at what cost, Lillian? Your integrity? Your self-respect? Your relationship with your son? Lillian's eyes fill with tears, her lower lip trembling. Theo will never forgive me for this, for letting him down. I feel a flicker of sympathy for her, but I push it aside. That's not my problem, Lillian. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I stand up to leave, but Lillian grabs my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. Please, Marin, don't do this. Don't destroy us completely. I wrench my arm away, my voice cold and unyielding. You destroyed yourselves, Lillian. I just shone a light on the truth. I walk away, my head held high. I know that my journey is not yet over, that there will be more obstacles and challenges to come. But for now, I feel a sense of peace and closure, knowing that I have taken back control of my life. The divorce is finalized a few months later, and I walk out of the courthouse a free woman. Theo and Lillian are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, their once enviable lifestyle, now nothing more than a distant memory. As for me, I focus on rebuilding my own life. I throw myself into my work, determined to succeed on my own terms. I surround myself with friends and family who love and support me, who appreciate me for who I am, not what I can do for them. And slowly but surely, I begin to heal. The pain and anger that once consumed me start to fade, replaced by a newfound sense of strength and resilience. I know that I will never forget what Theo and Lillian did to me, but I also know that I will not let it define me. I am more than just a victim of their lies and betrayal. I am a survivor, a fighter, a woman who knows her own worth and will never again settle for less than she deserves. And that, in the end, is the sweetest revenge of all. Life after the divorce is a strange and unfamiliar landscape. For so long, my identity was tied up in being Theo's wife, in playing the role of the dutiful spouse and daughter-in-law. Now I find myself adrift, unsure of who I am or what I want. But even as I struggle to find my footing, I take solace in the fact that Theo and Lillian are struggling even more. Everywhere they go, they are met with whispers and stares, with people who once fawned over them, now turning their backs in disgust. I hear through the grapevine that Theo has been blacklisted from every major investment firm in the city, his once sterling reputation now forever tarnished. Lillian, too, has become a social pariah, shunned by the very people she once looked down upon. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction at their downfall. After all the pain and betrayal they put me through, it feels like justice to see them finally facing the consequences of their actions. But another part of me knows that revenge is a hollow victory. It may feel good in the moment, but it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't erase the years of lies and deceit, the trust that was so brutally shattered. And so I focus on moving forward. I throw myself into my work, taking on new projects and challenges that push me out of my comfort zone. I start seeing a therapist, working through the trauma and pain of my failed marriage. Slowly but surely, I begin to rebuild my life. I make new friends, people who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I take up new hobbies, exploring parts of myself that I never had the chance to before. And as I do, I start to realize that my marriage to Theo was not the end of my story. It was just one chapter, a painful and difficult one, but one that I survived. And now, I have the chance to write a new chapter, one filled with hope and possibility. One day, I run into Lillian at the grocery store. She looks older than I remember, her face lined with worry and regret. For a moment, we just stare at each other, unsure of what to say. Finally, Lillian breaks the silence. "Marin, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. What Theo and I did to you was unforgivable." I nod, my expression guarded. "You're right, Lillian. It was unforgivable." Lillian takes a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that." I feel a flicker of something in my chest, not quite forgiveness, but perhaps a glimmer of understanding. "Thank you, Lillian. I appreciate you saying that." We stand there for a moment longer, two women whose lives were once so intertwined, now nothing more than strangers. And then, without another word, we go our separate ways. As I walk out of the store, I feel a sense of lightness, as if a weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I know that I will never forget what Theo and Lillian did to me, but I also know that I no longer need to carry the burden of their betrayal. I am not the same woman I was when I married Theo, and I never will be again. But that's okay, because the woman I am now is stronger, wiser, and more resilient than I ever thought possible. I am rebuilding not just my life, but my very soul, and with each passing day, I am one step closer to the person I was always meant to be. It's not an easy journey, but it's one that I am finally ready to take. And as I walk out into the bright sunlight, I feel a sense of hope and possibility that I haven't felt in years. The future is wide open, and for the first time in a long time, I am excited to see where it will take me.